Guess we're live, folks, on the good old Facebook machine. And Pat's poking at his screen. Are you poking at me? Are you trying to poke me?
I don't really want to know about that.
Poker, I hardly even know her.
I'm going to leave that one alone.
I'm just going to give you the look.
I mean, that's fine. I get weird looks anyway these days, so it's all right. It's okay, guys. How's everyone doing this glorious evening?
Well,
Since
I've been better.
Since we're in October now, go figure that shit. You know, September has come and gone, and now we're in good old Octobers.
I had an interesting day.
Do tell.
Did you meet Michael Myers? Because everyone wants to post about Michael Myers on fucking Facebook these days. And the social media train. Woo woo. It's Halloween month, Pat. That's what I was getting at.
Okay, I know. And of course we saw that trailer last night, and my dad leaned over to me and said, "Do you really think this will be the last one?" And I said, "Hell no."
No.
It would be glorious if it was.
I said, well, it definitely should be. And of course, the trailers certainly make it seem like that there's supposed to be some sense of finality to this and everything. I said, they'll reboot it in like 10 years or something or other. It's like, it's like, no. So anyway, my interesting day. So my parents came over and helped me finally get a few things hung up in my apartment, but we still have a bunch to go. Because we had some difficulty with one group of things. But then it was getting kind of late, and I was hungry. I said, "Let me buy you guys dinner." So ordered from a local pizza place and was having it delivered with the slice service.
Mm-hmm.
About
that.
Gotcha. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. All I'm going to say about Slice after one experience with them is
they suck.
No, do not use them. Now,
I had a bad experience as well.
There is a kind of a silver lining to this, but even so the place where I was ordering from, I could have easily driven to. It's just that I just didn't feel like it. I was kind of tired at that point and just trying to veg out, watch some college football. So it's like, I don't mind paying for delivery fees and stuff like that, because that's, helping somebody else, basically, the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So I never ordered from this place before for a delivery or a takeout or anything. So It's the first time I've used this app. So I go through the registration process. I, pay for my order. There's a delivery fee. There's a small support local fee that they also charge you. I'm like, fine, whatever. And of course they want you to tip the driver, which I have no problems doing. But I of course live in an apartment building here. And the thing with my building is that it's not really apartment numbers per se. It's like an address.
Mm-hmm.
So my address is what it is, and the person who lives next to me, it's 2 numbers higher, but with the same street number and street name and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the buildings have letters outside of them, which are in pretty big letters. So I've learned from the first couple times placing delivery orders from Pizza Hut or Domino's or Papa John's, wherever the hell it was, to make sure that I put the building number. Otherwise, it seems to confuse these poor drivers. So I did that. I put a special instruction. I put in addition to my address being on the order, of course, I said, it's building G. I said, please call, we'll come downstairs. So it's I'll come out. I don't mind just grabbing in the elevator real quick, just coming downstairs and you just hand me my damn order.
Right.
Well, it gets to be the delivery window and I haven't heard anything. I haven't gotten another text message saying my order's on the way or anything like that. I haven't got a phone call, anything. And then goes past the delivery time frame. So I go back onto the app and I start chatting with somebody and I'm saying hey, I haven't got my order yet. What's going on? And on the app, it's saying that that the order was still, either said it was in progress or on the way, but it didn't say anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And she's now telling, and then the person who had it was the name of a female. I don't remember what the rep's name said it was. Says, well, our status is showing this order is delivered. Can you please go check? And obviously there's nothing right outside my front door. So I'm like, son of a bitch. So I go all the way downstairs And yeah, it's just sitting there inside the front door next to the mailboxes.
That's where they left it.
Yeah, just sitting there. Just fucking sitting there. I have no clue how long it's been there. I obviously, of course, also would have no clue if anybody else would have touched it or anything. So
yummy.
I grab the order. I bring it upstairs. You know, I say to my parents, "Hey, I hope you like it cold." My mother's like, "Well, I'll just reheat it. We'll just reheat it. Turn your oven on." You know, and everything. So, but I'm just like, I'm pissed because I left instructions saying, "Hey, just call me and I'll come down and get it." But even without that, I got absolutely no notification of any kind that the fucking thing had been delivered.
Mm-hmm.
What was I supposed to do? Guess? Be there waiting? I mean, so I go back to the person. I'm like, okay, my order's here. I said, but this is a very big problem. I have no idea how long it's been here and yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And just was kind of generally complaining, which I think was perfectly reasonable. Person comes back saying, "I'm sorry you've had this bad experience. You know, we will pass the things along to the appropriate people and make sure that these kinds of things don't happen again. Thank you for using our service. Have a good day." And before I could try to type anything else in, because this was like a chat session thing and everything, the rep closed the chat.
Yeah, that's common.
Yeah, nice.
I said, "You have got to be motherfucking kidding me." I start ranting and raving, and my mother's like, "Eat your food before it gets any colder." So
It wasn't Peace Porch hot, Peace Porch cold. It was just cold.
I ordered a cheesesteak and fries for myself because I didn't feel like pizza. The last time I had pizza, I kind of had a bad reaction to it, like with my acid reflux, and it was from the same place. So I was just like, a little worried about eating their pizza right now. So I'm eating my food and everything, and then as soon as I'm done, I go back into the app and like my order's still up and I open a new chat session. I get a new person and I just tell them, I said, "I'm absolutely livid." I said, "My order was delivered. My instructions were ignored. I received no notification of delivery. I got on with another customer service representative who gave me a ham-handed apology and did absolutely nothing for me." I said, "I am beyond angry." I said, "You will do something about this or I will never use your service again. And I will make sure nobody I know ever uses your service again." All I wanted was the delivery fee and the tip refunded. I would have been satisfied with that. Because then I felt like I paid for the food, which the restaurant did their part. I'm not mad at the restaurant in any way, shape, or form. So I felt like I paid for the food and that's it. Well, they refunded the whole order and gave me a $5 credit for a future order, which will expire within 30 days.
There you go.
So now, of course, I feel guilty because they refunded the whole freaking order.
I wouldn't.
Well, put it this way. If by some chance the restaurant will not get the money for the food that they did prepare and did nothing wrong in preparing, that would bother me. I certainly hope that's not the way it works, but I don't know with these apps. So
that's just that place compensating for the mistake of that delivery service. Like down here, it's been on the news and whatnot locally that like Slice and DoorDash, even though DoorDash is extremely popular, Uber Eats and all that jazz, that a lot of places have stopped using them because of the fees that those places are now charging these companies, the food services. Like Marco's Pizza is a local place down here, and
I know Marco's. I had it in Indiana.
Yeah, they stopped using DoorDash. They were using DoorDash, but then it's on the flip side, they don't have enough people in their establishment to make all the orders for the people that need delivery. So it's pretty much they're making the food and you got to go get your food now. So that's another thing. So it's all this stuff going on. You got these places overcharging, hiring people who are shitty drivers and just don't give a shit and just don't follow instructions that are given. And then, people are complaining about it. And then when they stop the services and they're saving their money, now they don't have enough people they can't hire anybody to deliver. So everything's, hey, come get it. So it's a lot going on with that still, unfortunately.
Actually, yesterday, similar to Pat's, not exactly, but I ordered Bob Evans, and there's a Bob Evans, like I work in an outlet. It's like an outlet mall, There's
Mhm.
not a lot of stores left in the outlet. There's only like 16 stores left, and there's not a lot of food. There's not a lot of food places. There's like basically no food court in this place, and there's only a couple of food places within. There's a Wendy's, a Hardee's, a McDonald's, and Bob Evans. That's it. That's the only thing that's like within driving distance.
Mhm.
I'd kill for
I've-
Hardee's and Bob Evans around me.
I've ordered from Bob Evans several times. So this is probably the fourth or fifth time I've ordered from them, and it's fine. It's not even, I could walk to the place if I really had to, but I was not the manager. I was the manager on duty, so I couldn't leave. So somebody else had to go get our food. I got breakfast, like I got a breakfast platter type thing. So when she brought it back, there was no butter or syrup for the French toast.
Did you get some gravy?
So like there was no forks or utensils either. And her order was separate from mine. So we both ordered separate. So there was no utensils in either of them. And I ate the rest of the stuff, but French toast isn't really made to be eaten without something on it. So
Damn right. Need
It
some
was
butter
kinda-
and syrup.
I tried to eat it and I was like, no. So I called and I asked for the manager and I complained and I said, I'm like Pat, I kind of felt guilty because it's just syrup, but it's their job. That's the common sense to put that in the bag. So she like wrote my name down and said, next time I order from there, like whatever I order is on them. So
Oh, there you go.
I would have been okay if she would have gave me some free cookies or something. I think she thinks my whole meal was French toast and I got like eggs and bacon and stuff. The French toast was just like extra. I think she thought that was my whole meal. So I think she thought I didn't eat anything.
Well,
Gotcha.
I mean, you see, the funny thing, this is like the second time in as many weeks now that I've had like an interesting experience. Did I tell you what happened to me at Red Robin last week?
Yes.
No.
I
don't
think
remember.
maybe you told me on a phone conversation because I feel like I heard this.
Yeah.
Yes,
I-
us other
Robin,
two did not
I-
hear about this.
I was at my parents' house for most of the day last Saturday, and on the way back, I said, I'm going to stop at Red Robin to get a burger because I feel like it, And it was like at a weird time of night. It was like 8:00, so it seemed like the busy period was just ending. And they sat me down at like a table that's in like the middle of the one dining room. And I
Some
worked at
all
this Red
eyes were on
Robin.
you.
Yeah, in a way, it feels like
Everybody's
that.
watching me eat my burger.
But like I worked at this Red Robin many years ago, so I know how they can sometimes like divide up the dining room kind of oddly, and you can be like missed. And they also didn't like seat me down with the menu because it seems like a lot of these places now are doing the whole like
Scan the
QR.
barcode menu.
scan the code and look at the menu on
The
your
QR
phone.
codes.
QR code.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even though they have plenty of menus sitting right there and everything. So I
Yeah,
was
but you can't
patient,
touch
like,
that. If you touch that and give it to somebody else, they're going to get COVID from you. Don't you know that?
Well, we know
COVID's
that's
transmitted through everything.
We know
Just
we
kidding.
know that's we know that's really not the case. So if anybody's still actually treating it like that, then they're overcompensating.
It's a money-saving thing.
Yeah. I mean, so I was just sitting there and I was just waiting. I wasn't in any big hurry or anything. But then, like when I was able to read like an article that took me like 10 minutes on my phone, that took me like 10 minutes to finish reading. By that point, I was starting to get a little on the side. So did we just lose Joe?
No, he must be doing something. He must be picking his nose or something like that. And
We can still
doesn't-
hear us. He just took his picture off.
Oh, I see.
I had to plug in my laptop again. I keep forgetting. It's 2 weeks in a row.
So anyways,
Slacker.
finally somebody comes up to me and says, "Has anybody helped you yet?" I said, "No."
Does it look like it?
And I was like 2 minutes away from just saying, "Fuck this," and then I'm out of here because I ended up waiting about 20 minutes. And so I placed my order and everything, and then they took the price of my burger off the off the check. So all I really paid for was a soda, and I left a tip because the service was fine once I had service. So, and I figured it was just like, I just somehow got overlooked in like the combination of the, the rush and this, that, and the other thing. So
How does the show get
yeah.
over? How do you miss the big show?
because I really think again it's because of where they were seating me and because they sat like another table very close to me, like right at the same time, but who was the responsibility of another server. So frankly I blame the hostess more because I don't think the hostess like went and told the waitress, oh, I just sat you. And from when I worked in restaurants, that was pretty much a customary thing. So
I would have been like this. How did you miss this big 7-foot handsome man sitting here with no goddamn drink in front of him?
I don't know
I mean,
about
like,
the part, but the rest of it.
I mean, like, I'm 6'4" and I'm pounds. How could you freaking miss me?
That's why I said, how could you miss the big show?
So it's like consecutive Saturdays where I've had interesting dining experiences. How could I possibly top this next Saturday?
Don't go out to eat.
Yeah, don't go out to eat. I made the mistake of going to Burger King on 2 Thursdays ago, and that was, like I said, it was a mistake because this Burger King has the 2 lanes for drive-through, but they only have one lane open. Yeah, but they only have 1 lane open now. And they only do 1 order at a time. Reason being is because they only have 3, maybe 2, maybe 3 people working at a time because they have no help.
Yeah.
Right.
So I didn't realize this. Go ahead.
So when you mean 1 order at a time, do you mean like, I just want to clarify because it makes it sound like you went to the drive-thru and you're like, hey, I want to order a number 1, 5, and 6. And they're like, no, sir, you can only order 1 at a time.
Oh, no, not that.
I was going to say, I was like, if they're going to that depth, holy
they tell
shit.
you to pull forward, you pay, you get your food, and then they tell the people at the drive-thru speaker, we'll take your order now. And then that person places their order. Then they drive up. They pay. They get their food.
So they're doing it. Oof, yeah, they're struggling if they're doing it like that. Then holy shit.
You know,
I didn't realize this, but it was already so late, and I wasn't about to try and drive home and cook something, and I was already committed to the line. I waited between half hour and 45 minutes to get through the drive-through line.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
I waited.
Never again. Never again.
I waited at a Wendy's during my lunch hour a month or 2 ago for like fucking 45 minutes. And I said, I'm not going to this Wendy's again anytime soon. And I haven't been back to that one since. I also had an interesting experience at a Burger King a couple Sundays ago. I went there and it was about 20 after 6. And when I pull up to the drive-through window, the woman starts talking, hi, we're going to be closing soon, so we have a limited menu. And I'm like,
oh, here we go.
Soon?
Right. It's like, I'm like, it's barely after 6 o'clock. Aren't you guys open till 9 or 10? You know, or, that's what I was thinking. But, you know, I'd be like, I gave my order and she said they have all that. So I'm like, all right, fine. You know, I don't care. But it's just like, I'm like, wow, that's weird. It's got to be again because they don't have the staff. I can't imagine any reason why it would be like that.
I saw a meme today and it was like a guy and he's like, I'm going to dress up like a job application because people are afraid of these.
So here's the crazy
thing. Dress up like
that sounds like the trendy 2021 Halloween costume right there.
So here's the interesting thing. And this, this is not you know, we're not on our podcast. We are definitely not political. We don't talk about that shit. But here's an interesting thing. Okay. If you listen to the news, you always hear about, oh, this many jobs created, this many jobs created. Okay, that's great. Okay, jobs are created. But here's the problem. We might have this many jobs, but who the fuck is getting off their ass and working them? I'm trying to figure that out because if you can't go to a fast food restaurant, you can't get your shit from Amazon on time. You don't get FedEx deliveries. You don't get this. You don't get that. Who the fuck is filling these jobs? Because if we got all these jobs, there should be nobody. There's plenty of fucking people working. That's what I'm trying to understand.
It's only a select group that are really
applied
and hiring.
I can't quite figure it out in a lot of ways because it's like it seems like there's job openings and it's either people have come to the realization that for what they're paying they're not worth it, especially while we're still dealing with the pandemic, or people are valuing themselves too highly. I don't really know, but it's like one of the clients that I work with very closely is a seafood restaurant that's over in New Jersey. He only has, even since like he's been back up to like full capacity for like 6 months or so now, however long it's been, I've lost track exactly. He's only still had like 4 or 5. Now his restaurant's kind of small, but even so, he still only had like 4 or 5 people on his payroll. Like and he does a lot, of course, and like one of the people on his payroll is his daughter, who's basically like the general manager. But it's like I don't think there's anybody that's like actually listed on the payroll reports as like kitchen staff.
Mm-hmm.
So either he's paying people off the books, which since I see every transaction that goes through, again, it's definitely off the books, or he's doing all the cooking and stuff himself, which I think he told me once he is, but that was still months ago. And it's like he said that he's willing to pay, decent amounts and everything, but it's still just. So again, it's really hard to tell. Again, is it just that people are like, I'm not going to go work at place X for Y wages while I can't trust that, like, I won't get sick again or whatever? Or is it just that there's going to have to be like a big market correction with how much some of these places pay?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to figure it out either.
It's something that'll be very interesting to see as we hopefully get further away from the worst days of the pandemic and start getting stuff down. But now of course I'm worried because the weather's going to start getting colder again, and it's like,
yeah, now you got flu season coming up.
Well, maybe it'll be colder where you guys are, but not
shut up. So it's just interesting because
it's still like in the 70s up here, Joe. So
just very cold mornings, like 50s mornings, and then it gets up to the 70s by midday. But it's just interesting. Like, I don't know how it is in I know Pat's in PA with me, but I don't know for you and Joe and Matt, AJ. Like, I saw Dunkin' Donuts $15 an hour with $1,000 signing bonus.
Yeah, everybody's got signing bonuses.
Like, I've seen
that
place. It was like $18 with a $2,500 signing bonus. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? like,
I mean, my brother
fucking nuts.
My brother just like got a job at Amazon, and I think he gets part of the money when he starts, and then the other part of it you have to work for like 90 days. Like you have to work.
Yeah, those are usually contingent, but still, like
that makes sense. That makes sense. I can see that. Yeah.
One of the restaurants, barbecue places in downtown Raleigh, is doing that. He's having trouble. He needs to hire like 4 or 5 people. So he's up in the minimum wage, the starting pay, and then he's giving everybody like $1,000 bonus.
It's
sign on bonus. Yeah,
I see. I guess the other thing that mystifies me too about this is that I know a lot of like the extended unemployment benefits have expired.
They're done.
They're done.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they've expired. And unemployment will only pay you for so long anyway, I think, even during the pandemic and everything. So it's like, I can understand, in the general sense, you don't want to go work at a fast food place for $8.50, $10 an hour, something like that. But at the same time, at some point, it's like, dude, don't you need money? Don't you have bills to pay? So.
People are still getting free money.
I got paid on Thursday. Pretty much the next day, my entire paycheck was gone because I had to pay my rent. So I mean, that's just an example. But
not that this is enough to live on, but right now, if you have children and you claim the child tax credit on your, it's part of the standard deduction is the child tax credit. Mm-hmm. You're getting money from the government for doing nothing. It's not a lot. I'm not going to sit here and say, man, you can live off of it, but
you're getting money for having had kids, essentially.
Right. Yeah, and it's so much per kid based on their age. So if you've got 5 kids, you get X amount of dollars for each kid that you have. It's nuts.
Yeah. My sister has asked me about the additional child tax credit that they've been giving out and everything, because she has 4 kids, and
until December.
I think she said that she had a little bit more time to look at it with her husband, and they came to the conclusion that it's actually going to be a bad thing for them, and that they're going to probably end up owing a lot of that back when they actually have to sit down and do their taxes and for 2021 and everything. And I told her, I said, sorry, Meg, I don't really understand what all the parameters of it are, because it seems to change, and we haven't really had to file any tax returns for it yet. So it's not something we were doing like a lot of like estimates for people either. So I said, if you're concerned, that you may owe it back come, tax time, then obviously the best thing I can tell you to do is put it aside and don't spend it if you don't need to. So.
Yeah, because it's going to come back to bite a lot of people in the ass.
It's stupid to give that to the American public, and then the taxman's like, oh, it's not free, we're going to take that back. It's just it's a contradiction. Like, you're trying to help people, but then at the same time you're going to take it back. Like, it's the American way, I guess. Right. It's how we do things in this fucking country.
We'll close this up just by and I'll say this, and we'll move on to some sports and shit like that. It's crazy because to opt out of it, because you have to opt out of it every single month in order not to get a check from the government. It's not like a one-time opt-out. It's an every single month opt-out. And they make it very, very hard. Like, I know some people that have tried it, and they said it is a pain in the ass. They did it once, and they never did it again because it's so difficult. So,
and I'll tell you why that is. It's because the government agencies and everything are underfunded themselves, and they don't have enough people to sit there and be able to process these things. Yeah. That's why it's like this. It's like my older sister who does not have kids. She's having another issue where she and her husband forgot to report some income a couple of years ago. So the IRS has been on them for that, but they also, of course, keep piling on penalties and interest. And one of my bosses is trying to help them out with at least getting the penalties and the interest waived, which he's pretty good at doing. But it's been like impossible for him to get through to somebody at the IRS. So
yeah,
it's hard to get through the IRS normally. Like, you usually have to sit there on
yes,
hold.
It is.
You usually have to sit there on hold for everything. But, for the last, 18 months now, basically, it's an adventure. So.
All right. Now, we've bored every one of our listeners, if we have anybody listening. We probably bored them to death with that crazy ass talk. But it's something that just kind of went off on its own tangent and took a life of its own. All right, so let's move on to some fucking sports. And
I did have a joke about jobs. I mean,
okay,
we passed it.
Oh.
It was a kind of a as like people have side hustles. Like, some people might have glory hole side hustles going on these days. So they're making money off that. That was what my comment was going to be. If you know what that is, you know what that is. If you don't, Google it.
I remember there was that show on Comedy Central a couple of years ago that I think was called Review, where the guy went around and he was like reviewing everyday life, and one of the things that he reviewed was the glory hole.
No, I don't remember that. Sounds
that
great, though.
Awesome. That is classic. He did that.
Oh, yeah,
that's perfect.
I'm pretty sure that show's not on anymore. I remember when I watched it a couple times, I thought it was pretty subversively funny. So,
yeah,
that's classic.
All right, so nothing exciting happened in football except for the fact that the Broncos are still 3-0.
Yes. My team has a better record than all 3 of your teams combined right now. They have more wins. They have more wins than all 3 of your teams combined.
Yeah, that's something else, isn't it?
Give it another 4 weeks and we'll see where we're at.
Well, like I said, I looked ahead at the Giants' upcoming schedule through like Thanksgiving and everything, and if you
guys can't even beat the Falcons, so you're in trouble. So
this is my point. I looked at their next 7. I looked at their next 7 games, which takes us through. I think it was the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and I said, "Fuck, they'll be 0-10." The way that they're playing right now, I can't see them beating, because then they play the Saints, they play the Cowboys, they play the Panthers, they play, I think, the Raiders. It's a cornucopia of, well, all these teams certainly look better than them on paper. So where exactly is that elusive first win coming from? You know?
Jeremy had fun Monday night watching his buddy Ezekiel Elliott light up the Eagles.
God damn. Such fucking bullshit. But
yeah.
I'll say that.
I'm sorry, just real quick. The Giants' next 7 games: at the Saints, at the Cowboys, versus the Rams, versus the Panthers, at the Chiefs, versus the Raiders, and at the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
again, you tell me who they're beating.
And to throw insult to injury, they got the Chiefs
this week.
Yeah,
and the Chiefs are kind of like, I feel like the Chiefs are like
they're due for a big one.
Yeah, they need.
They're underperforming right now.
They are.
Yeah, the Chiefs badly need a win tomorrow.
Yeah, and they're going to come out all guns blazing, and I think it's going to be very, very bad for the Eagles.
Yeah,
going back to the Eagles,
and you know that deep down, Andy Reid takes pleasure in beating the Eagles. So
would you stop?
Yeah, he does.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but no, I won't.
But yeah, watching that Eagles Cowboys game, I just was like dumbfounded because they can't this year. They can't stop the run. I knew they weren't going to be able to stop the pass. So it's like, okay, what defense do they have? Because they evidently can't do shit. I mean, it doesn't help that Brandon Graham got injured and he's out for the season with an Achilles tear. So
yeah,
he's their left side rusher. He's out for the season. You got Barnett on the other side, who is a fucking waste of space as far as the defensive end goes. He is terrible.
Yeah, we had that conversation. I remember.
they made him out to be the next great thing, and there was an article. I didn't read the article. My brother was telling me about it yesterday. Like the guy just fired, like just dumped on him, like about how bad he is, what a waste of space he is, why is he still there? It's just it's unbelievable. But yeah, it's been bad. It's been bad, very bad to watch, very hard to. And the offensive scheme they put up to try and beat the Cowboys was terrible. They ran 3 times the whole entire game. That's it. Like, how do you run 3 times?
At least your team didn't average 1.1 yards per game, average for a whole fucking game in total yards.
Yeah, but how many times did you actually run it?
9 sacks too. Is that what it was?
9 sacks.
Jeez,
holy shit!
I said, as bad as the Giants have been playing, at least Daniel Jones hasn't been getting sacked 9 times a game.
9 fucking
That was
times.
Fields, right? That was Justin Fields, right back in the backfield, right?
Yep.
And he's supposed to
no adjustments, 0 adjustments to help that kid. None.
Yeah, and the thing that concerned me about that is, I mean, it's way too early to say something like this, of course, but when I see a young quarterback getting sacked that much, all I think about is David Carr, and think about how he never had a fair chance because right away from his rookie season, he's getting sacked like 70 times. It was like his first couple of years, and it's like no wonder why the guy never became anything, because he was fucking shell shocked.
Yeah. Yeah. 9 sacks, no offensive line adjustments.
I mean,
tight ends were barely used. They ran the ball, I think, 14 or 15 times, and they did not change the offensive scheme to help him at all.
Yeah.
0 times.
We're gonna find out if Denver's good or not tomorrow. They play Baltimore. Like we're gonna find out if the teams they beat are 0-9.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I saw that meme about them being 0-9. The teams that they beat.
We're gonna find out if they're for real. If they beat Baltimore tomorrow, even though it's at home, then I'll start saying, because Bridgewater hasn't turned the ball over yet. They have no turnovers yet. So
that's
good
on this part.
And if one thing's always been evident, though, in the NFL, it's that you got to beat the teams that are on your schedule, good or bad. So, okay, you play 3 teams who are combined 0-9 so far. Yeah, okay, but you won all 3 of them. You did what you were supposed to do. So
yeah.
That will keep you around in the conversation at the very least.
Yeah, and to be honest, Baltimore, as good as they can be, has not been playing up to their potential.
Baltimore should have lost on Sunday. I mean, give me a break. Like they got a 4th and 19 and kicked a 68-yard field goal to win the game. So like that's the Lions being the Lions, though. So
yeah, that was a missed call too for delay of game anyway. So That should have been called.
That happens, Joe. When you told me that the other day, I see that happen, like in college and pro games where the play clock's at 0 and they snap they don't call it, and it's like, how can I see this?
I've seen that more than a few times in games, both college and pro this year, which makes me think that play clock that they're showing us then is wrong.
Well,
or the referees are completely unobservant. I don't know.
No, so this is what they said on, was it Fox or CBS? I don't remember which one it was. It might have been CBS. They had one of their NFL ref guys that are always on. So he said the back line judge, when the clock goes to 0, he sees it goes to 0, and the next thing he does is he looks where the ball is.
Yeah, but every time I see it, half the time it's still under the center's ass.
That's exactly how they are. From what he said, that's how they're taught to do it. They look at the clock, so they see the play clock. It goes to 0, and once it hits 0, there's supposed to be like a second delay they're allowed from the ref looking at the play clock down to see if the ball's been snapped. But that one was like a 2-second delay. So I don't know what the ref was doing, but it should have been. He said it should have been a delay of game, but he was trying to defend the ref like it was close. No, it wasn't. That was like 2 seconds, but that's what he explained. It goes, they pay attention to the play clock, and then once it hits 0, they quickly look down to see where the ball is, and the ball's being snapped. They don't do nothing about it. They won't.
Yeah, that's different. If the ball is being snapped, I understand, because that split second.
But this situation, there wasn't.
But I've seen too many situations where it's 0. The clock. He would have had time to look down and see that the ball has not fucking moved yet.
Yeah, it's 0. Like it's 0 for
they're letting it go too long.
It's not a split second thing.
Yeah. And I've seen it happen good for the Eagles, and I've seen it happen bad for the Eagles. You know, it's just, it's one of those things where it's kind of like they almost they should have like a fucking buzzer that goes off, that the refs don't even have to watch it. They just listen for the buzzer. Yeah, like a shot clock. I mean, I don't know how loud that would need to be that the ref could hear it on the field, or maybe they have it in their earpiece that as soon as it goes. That should
be something. Yeah, in their earpiece would work better for them.
Yeah,
we need the the Royal Rumble countdown clock.
Play through the whole stadium sound system.
Okay. You're saying like how loud does it have to be? Well, okay. So in addition to like the sound of the clock hitting 0, you obviously have to start playing somebody's theme music then, because you play it loud enough over the stadium speaker system. I guess somebody pays attention when you're trying to snap a ball. Yeah.
Pat, I saw a video. Britt Baker's on the sidelines at the Penn State game, and she almost they caught a pass and somebody ran into her on the sideline.
What, tonight?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yes.
I thought I would have.
She's on the sideline.
Evidently, that's not somewhere where she should be standing. Maybe she should just try sitting in the stands where it's safer.
She's a celebrity, though, so she's probably a Penn State fan too. So she probably got to be on the field.
I don't know. If she's from Pittsburgh, it's dangerous to say you're a Penn State fan if you're from Pittsburgh. So
well, I know, but it kind of go either way. The Penn State's right in the middle of the state, so.
Well, right, but it's like
but there's a thing between those two schools.
Trust me, yeah. Pitt, and the University of Pittsburgh. When I say Pitt, and Pitt fans have held this prolonged grudge against Penn State from the moment that Penn State accepted entry into the Big Ten back in the 90s, because it ended basically the early Penn State Pitt games, and Penn State didn't schedule Pitt for a very long time thereafter. And Pitt kept saying, they're decking us. Pitt is one of those college football teams and fan bases that has a massive inferiority complex. So all they ever do is whine about how, other big school that plays somewhat in the general vicinity, and by general vicinity, of course, I mean within a couple 100 miles, they won't play us anymore. Notre Dame heard the same shit from Michigan and Michigan State and Purdue and Boston College when they started playing this pseudo ACC schedule. So,
yeah, I'd love to see a good Penn State Irish game again. I haven't seen one of those in very, very long time.
They did a home and home about I think it's been over a decade ago, and I'm pretty sure the home team won each game in that time where they renewed it. And that's because when Notre Dame was the home team, they had one of their stronger teams, and I think they went to one of the major bowl games that year. And then the next year, Penn State was the stronger team and won pretty easily. So it was, just one of those things. But yeah. It's like, that's the only disadvantage, of course, is you only have so many non-conference games that you can schedule. So
yes. And on to baseball. In baseball news, the Philadelphia Phillies have lost themselves out of a possible playoff berth because they suck.
I mean, the Yankees are playing themselves out of one. 2 days ago, we were in good shape, right, Pat?
Yeah. 2-game lead with 3 games to go. Now they're tied.
So they're doing the same thing the Phillies did. How can we lose and not make the playoffs?
Well, see, here's the thing. They're still in a decent position.
Because they would have to, even if they end up tied, they would have to play a playing game Monday, right?
Right. So, I mean, the fact that they just can't seem to beat Tampa Bay anymore is one of the bigger mysteries for me. It's like Tampa Bay is
make the postseason and then have to play them anyways and probably get swept.
Tampa Bay is, in a lot of ways, has become a more annoying opponent for the Yankees and the Red Sox have. So, nice pass interference, Penn State. That didn't get called. Sorry, I got the Penn State game on the monitor here. But yeah, really, all they really had to do was win 1 out of 3 versus Tampa Bay, but really more like 2. And they lost yesterday, and they
got swacked.
They played horribly today. Yeah, so it's just they're tied with Boston, but the problem, of course, there is that the problem with that, of course, is that Boston won the season series. So if they finish tied, they have to go back to Boston to play the fucking wild card game. It's like, oh yeah, one stadium where I definitely want to see Penn State play a wild card game is fucking Fenway Park.
Penn State.
Did I say Penn State? Sorry, I meant the Yankees.
Watch one thing. What team are we talking about?
Penn State's playing a wild card game. Damn.
Well, okay, but if Penn State has to go to Fenway Park to play this wild card game, as good as Jahan Dotson is, I don't know if he can hit a fastball.
I don't think he can.
That was good, Pat. You took it and ran with it. So
yeah. But I will say this: I never root against my team, but in a very perverse way, I almost kind of hope that they end up fucking it up and missing the playoffs, because I'm so sick of Aaron Boone as manager.
Boone.
He has really proven to me, and I wanted to like the guy so much, and he is a likable guy and everything. And obviously, he provided one of the great moments in Yankee history, which lasted for all of a week when you come right down to it, because of the egg that they went late in the World Series after that. He makes so many bad choices, bad moves, bad decisions, like from an in-game perspective. And I sometimes don't understand why he's playing this guy at this position one day, or why a guy is partially dinged up and he'll sit him for 4 days in a row for seemingly no reason. Or it took him so long to put Stanton in the outfield for a few games this year, and still that kind of shit's going on. And it's just so annoying. So it's I just want somebody new in charge. And if it takes them totally missing the playoffs to do that, then I'll be fine with it. As bad as that sounds.
Toronto's only a game behind too, isn't it?
What's that?
I said Toronto's only a game behind both those teams too.
Yeah, and depending upon what Seattle does tonight, if they were to win, they'd only be a game back again too, I think. Or are they? Yeah. So it's a mess. So we have to see what happens. And of course, the Yankees are playing the Rays, who are the best team in the American League, who don't technically have anything to play for. They already clinched home field and everything. But then you got the Blue Jays are playing the Orioles, and the Red Sox are playing the Nationals. So just the way
the Red Sox should beat the Nationals because the Nationals are pretty bad.
Yeah,
Chris Sale's pitching tomorrow for Boston too.
Yeah. the Yankees are starting Tejon tomorrow, but it also sounds more likely that it'll be like some kind of like a bullpen game, to be honest, because so that way they're saving Cole in case they either have to play a 1-game playoff to get into the wild card playoff, or Cole will pitch the wild card game. The funny thing, of course, about that is that Cole hasn't been his sharpest this last few starts since he was briefly on the COVID list there. So I just don't know. And they seem to be so streaky. They get on a good streak and it can last for a while, and it seems like they can do no wrong. But then it seems like as soon as they lose one game, then it seems like it just all starts falling apart, and then they'll go on a big losing streak. And that's one of the reasons why they haven't been better than they should be, really. So
I
they've won 90 plus games and I'm complaining, but it's like, yeah, it's because there's somebody better than them.
When I was talking to Jay today, and we've never really said anything specifically about the Giants on here, how that team, I think anybody that watches baseball thought at some point the Giants were gonna like hit a skid or something. And I think it's pretty cool that they're the best team in baseball, and they've been the best team in baseball most of the year. Mm-hmm. And I don't know a ton of players on that team.
Nope.
Yeah, they're almost.
I know Chris Bryant. That's fucking sure.
They are almost like the no-name team though. In a lot of ways, like I mean, Buster Posey's still there, but I don't think it's a stretch to say he's past his prime.
Yeah.
He's not the MVP, player that he once was. Same with Chris Bryant, and of course Bryant's only been there for half the season. I mean, even Longoria's there, but again, somebody else. So I don't think it's a stretch to say he's past his prime. So they are kind of like the
misfits.
I don't want to say misfits, but they are like like the guys who are, it's like
kind of sorta.
It's like Johnny Cueto's there. There's another guy who's I think you would definitely say is past his prime, and it's just like a bunch of guys who just a lot of them are having like career years, but it's kind of interesting. So it's just a lot of like, wait, like that guy's on that team, or who the hell is that? Kind of thing.
No, I mean, you got Tommy LaStella is another one.
Yeah, like Wilmer,
Crawford.
Wilmer Flores is there, and Brandon Crawford's still there, and he's having one of his best seasons, and he's age 34 and everything. But Posey's 34. Brandon Belt's still there. He's 33. So they're like this like kind of like veteran team though, with a bunch of guys who you kind of almost forgot are still playing.
Yeah,
I mean, I want
absolutely.
If the Yankees, if the Giants win the World Series, that's fine. Like if the Yankees aren't going to win, then the Giants would be who I would prefer to see win at this point. So
I would like to see Chris Bryant do good in the playoffs, but that's about as far as that's going to go.
Posey's a Seminole, Joe. So I've always had a soft spot for Posey because he went to Florida State. So
I would probably say that as well too. And the reason why for me. I'm looking at like the other teams that are in the playoffs. I obviously can't root for the Red Sox or the Rays or the Blue Jays or the Astros or the Dodgers or the Cardinals or the Braves.
So all that's left is the White Sox and the Giants
and the Brewers. Yeah. So the Giants, like there's nobody I dislike. The Brewers, I'd have to go look at their roster, but I always am reluctant to root for the Brewers because of their ties to the Bud Selig, who to this day I don't like. And sorry to say this, Joe, but I can't root for the White Sox for one very big reason. And I think you know what it is.
What's your big reason?
I think you know what it is.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, put it this way. I find this kind of funny, and it's a very much it's an apples to oranges comparison because of how different the seasons were and everything. But the White Sox finished with a better winning percentage last year than they're going to this year. Now, obviously, again, 60 games versus 162 games. But I guess they felt like Renteria, of course, wasn't getting the job done. So they had to go bring in a manager who knew how to win.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Tony La Russa.
I'm still on a toss-up with him. It was hard for me when they signed him, and I'm like, oh, yes, I know he managed the White Sox, but he was with the Cardinals for so fucking long, and I despised the Cardinals. And that was hard for me to swallow.
Yeah, and another thing too, it's like if you look, and obviously, of course, he's in the Hall of Fame as a manager, and it's really hard to dispute that for a lot of reasons. But I remember somebody pointing out it was because La Russa got into the Hall of Fame at the same time that Bobby Cox and Joe Torre did. And somebody who at that time took a cynical view saying, of course, it's hard to argue with their accomplishments when you look at their win-loss records and all this, that, the other thing. But he also said, were there also any other three managers who had a bigger benefit from having players who have had allegations and ties to PEDs? And I went and I said to myself, yeah, that's probably true. But La Russa, to me, is really the poster boy out of those three guys for that because, of course, he was the fucking guy in Oakland in the Bash Brothers years. And we know Canseco, McGuire, and God knows who else on those teams was popping fucking.
No, not those guys.
Yeah. And obviously, he didn't win a World Series with McGuire when McGuire was with St. Louis. But again, same kind of thing that, he's the guy there when McGuire's hitting 70 home runs. And, of course, as we know, then was doing it with the benefit of the Andro and everything. So, and also then La Russa's always struck me as being just a very arrogant person. If you go back and you look at his tenure when he was running the Diamondbacks there a few years ago and brought Dave Stewart in as GM, it was a fucking it was a farcical comedy of errors because they were asking if they can make trades with teams that involve certain parameters and stuff, and the guys on the other end of the phone would have to say to them, no, you literally can't do that. It was against the rules, and they apparently didn't know this, so it was Jesus Christ.
So here's
I just hate La Russa, so I definitely don't want to see him win a World Series.
So
nothing really against any players for the White Sox, but fuck their manager.
So I wanted to, we're mentioning the Giants here and how interesting their season's been and how good they've been for the entire season. So the one thing that I think, I'll give some stats here in just a minute, but the one thing that I think makes a good baseball team is not how many home runs can individuals hit, it's how many people can you get on base. Because if somebody does hit a home run, now you have multiple runs coming in most likely. Yep. And that's one thing that I see the Phillies don't do. They can't get on base. They're hitting for home runs. And a lot of teams do this. They hit for home runs. Guys don't try and just get on base.
Oh, the Yankees do that too. So
when I look at the stats for the Giants, and I don't know who their starters are. I don't know how this website's set up to say if the first 9 guys are their starter or 8 guys are their starters and then whatever pitcher. But when I look at it, and I'm looking at their batting average, the first 12, 13 people listed here are at 250 or higher than 250. Now, it might only be a point or two higher than 250 batting average, but still 250 is a respectable batting average in the MLB.
These days, and unfortunately it is, yeah.
Yeah. Now, granted, you want to be hitting 300 or more, that would be great. But
What's their OPS?
Their OPS, the lowest guy that I'm seeing that looks to be a starter is about 304.
It's OBP, I think you're looking at.
I'm looking at OBP. Sorry, OPS. I apologize. Yeah. OPS, the smallest guy is about 725.
Who's the highest on their team?
Let's see. That is Belt with 975.
Okay. Isn't the average Pat OPS this year been around 1? Close to 1, I think the average is.
I've got the Giants baseball reference page up. The closest guys to 100 with OPS plus, their OPS is, I'm going to say an OPS of around 730 is an OPS plus of 100. So that would be like average for this year.
And they don't have anybody that's hitting a ton of home runs either. Like the highest guy, Belt's got 29 home runs. So they're not knocking the ball out of the park. So guys are getting on base and they're getting the guys around.
They're manufacturing runs.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Actually, this is actually pretty interesting. I'm on the Giants 2021 baseball reference team page, and so these stats are only updated through yesterday. So their triple slash line, as it's called, batting average, on base percentage, slugging percentage, and this includes their pitchers, is 249, 329, 441. So those numbers for like an individual player are not overly impressive. But again, remember, this is a team average, so you're obviously going to have
the pitchers are in there, so it kind of
and especially when you have pitchers and everything. So amongst the National League, the 15 National League teams, the 249 team batting average is actually second best in the National League. The 329 team on base percentage is also second best. The 441 slugging percentage is first. And then their OPS of 771, which is on base plus slugging, is also first. Now, here's the thing. You said they're not actually hitting a lot of home runs.
That's good.
They actually are. Their 239 home runs are actually first in the National League. What it is that they have great distribution.
It's not one or two people.
Yeah, they have 10 guys
with double-digit home runs
who have hit double-digit home runs. They have 3 guys who have hit at least 24, but the highest total on the team is 29. So they don't have Ohtani or Vlad Guerrero or any of those guys who are hitting 40, but they have a lot of guys who have contributed decent power numbers. And so it does actually add up to them having the most home runs in the league. So having that depth, having that lineup depth like that, where it's like, I can put this guy in, he's got a chance to be able to hit one out, but he's also going to probably get me on base and everything. Having that depth of lineup is what makes, for like the stronger teams. Like if you were to go back and look at the 1998 Yankees, for example.
I was just going to bring that.
That was the year of the home run, of course. That was the year McGwire hit 70 and Sosa hit 66. And I think the guy that led the Yankees in home runs that year had 28. But they had they had 10 or 11 guys who had double-digit home runs, and they had a bunch of guys who hit more than 20. And they got on base. They got on base relentlessly. The Yankees team on base percentage that year, and again, steroid era, so offensive numbers were inflated, but their team on base percentage that year, and it was first in the American League, was 364. That's a high number.
It's not even just that year, Pat. I think all the years, I think the years they won those World Series, I feel like it was more balanced. They didn't have somebody hitting 50 home runs, really, like ever. Like they were balanced.
When they went on that run where they won like the 4 and 5 years, I'm not sure they ever had a guy hit 30 home runs in any of the years that they won the World Series.
So
That's why I always kind of joked, like when they signed Giambi, then I was like, oh shit, now here comes the guy who's going to hit 40 home runs, watch him never win a World Series again. And well, they've only won one since.
Well, and see, here's kind of my point. Yes, they do have guys they got multiple guys that are hitting home runs and consistently. Nobody's the home run king, so to say. They don't have one of those guys. But if you can get guys on base and you know that there's somebody within the lineup that during an at-bat could easily put one out of the park, instead of getting 1 run, you get 2, or maybe you get 3. That's a lot harder to come back from as the opposing team than, we got a single home run because they've got, the 50 home run guy or, 60 home runs or, getting on base actually does mean something in the baseball world. Like too many teams, I feel any day nowadays, because the emphasis has become, we gotta get that home run ball. It makes the game more exciting. Well, yeah, it makes the game more exciting for that one play, for that one hit. But what makes the game even more exciting? Seeing guys get on base and get around base. That makes me cheer for a team more than watching him hit home runs and then them still being down 2-1. But that's just me.
I mean, I always remind my dad. I said, let's say it's like the top of the second inning, and somebody hits a home run against the Yankees, and it's a solo home run, and now it's 1-0. I'm like, it's 1 run. You can make that so easily if you do it the right way and everything. But yeah, again, I mean, and this is something that, for whatever reason, it wasn't until like the whole Moneyball thing with Billy Bean and everything, realizing that the value was about getting on base, because you can't score runs unless guys get on base. But for the longest time, like when I was growing up, it was, people only cared about batting average. It's because it's like, who's really more valuable? The guy who hits 300 but doesn't walk much, so that his on-base percentage is only 330, or the guy who hits 275 but gets a lot of walks, so that his on-base percentage is 350. That's the whole thing. It's like, it's nice that guy's hitting 300, but the guy who's hitting 275 is actually on base more. So what's going to score?
If you got the guy that's on base more hitting in front of the guy that's hitting over 300, well, that's a good way to go. Yeah, because maybe he walks and that guy hits him around. I don't.
Yeah, and one of my favorite of all time baseball quotes is from Earl Weaver, the old Baltimore Orioles manager. The key to winning baseball games is pitching, fundamentals, and 3-run homers.
Not a single run.
I miss the days when people steal bases. No one steals bases anymore. Barely ever.
Well, it's because of the whole like Moneyball thing, where it's like, you don't want to give up outs. So if you get caught stealing, then it's no good. I like running games though. Wow. I like if you
learn how to fucking steal.
Right. If you have guys, if you have
it's
guys,
an art that's gone.
If you have guys who can do it, then I say it's definitely a weapon to be utilized. But again, like I was also saying that back in that day, like they only ever cared about batting average. It was also back up in that day that's when they hit guys at the top of the lineup if they were fast. Didn't matter if they actually got on base, but if they were fast, it's like, well, okay, so if I get him on base, he's going to steal. You can't steal first base. Mm-hmm. So now guys like Ricky Henderson and Tim Raines, who were two of the greatest leadoff hitters of all time, they were fast. They stole a shit ton of bases and had a high success rate, but they also got on base. Vince Coleman, who stole a bunch of bases there for a few years, didn't get on base nearly as much, and that's why his career wasn't anywhere as long as it was for those other guys.
Yeah,
and there was plenty of other guys. If you went back and had if you collected baseball cards there in the 80s and stuff, you'd probably look back through them and be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was really fast." And it's like, yeah, now go on to Baseball Reference and look up his stats. And it's like, oh, he had a 318 career on base percentage. Oh, he wasn't really actually that good. So. It was interesting how it just how it took so long, it seemed like, for guys to really, and by guys, I'm saying the people who are running these teams to really realize that, oh yeah, that's actually the key to the success, getting on base, So
yeah, your leadoff hitter needs to be able to put one in the field where he can get on base, and then he really should be the fastest person on your team, but that's not always the case anymore. Nope. Where the leadoff hitter is your most consistent hitter, but they're not necessarily always the fastest guy anymore because the game's changed.
Yeah, it's because they have gone away from stolen bases in a large extent. And it's but now, generally speaking, you see the guys who are hitting more up at the top of the lineup are, again, the guys who have the better on base capability. So
yeah,
that's something that's I can't see that changing because, it's such an obvious thing. It's hey, this guy gets on base better than that guy. Obviously, you want that guy hitting higher in the lineup to get more plate appearances and every other thing. So
that's why Bonds was so scary, because he got walked all the time. He would hit home runs or get walked.
Yeah, well, see that was one of, yeah, that was one of, see, that's the thing too when you look at some of those sluggers throughout history.
Though, he's the one to me that, because he got walked more than anybody. We've never
right. Well, absolutely, but when the whole
under a different circumstance though,
when all the PED stuff started to hit the fan, and obviously McGwire was at the forefront of that, taking a lot of the criticism, as he rightly should. All of a sudden it became popular for people to say shit like, oh, all he ever did was hit home runs, and it's like, no, McGwire was pretty damn good at taking walks too, and that is a skill, so. Mm-hmm. There are some guys out there who are sluggers who are absolutely terrific at also being patient and taking walks and stuff like that. Jason Giambi, was another guy who would fit that mold. And then there's some guys who are great sluggers who couldn't take a walk if their life depended on it. Vlad Guerrero was one of those guys, but he hit the ball so hard and so far that he still got in the Hall of Fame. Andre Dawson back in the day, I think his career on base percentage was something like 324, which is, I think, one of the lowest numbers for any Hall of Famer, not just like, a guy who finished his career with over 400 home runs.
I want to say Ryan Howard was very bad at not swinging at the ball. Like, I don't remember him walking like a ton unless it was like really dirt ball shit. Like, he knew he was never going to hit it. Like, I feel like he swung at a lot of terrible pitches.
Well, he had a career on base percentage of 343 off of a 258 batting average. So he took a decent number of walks. He did have a couple seasons with more than 100 walks. Those were his first couple years, like his MVP year when he hit 58 home runs and everything. Mm. Obviously, when you're having a year when you're going to hit 58 home runs, there's also going to be times where you're going to get. Yeah, he was intentionally walked 37 times that year.
It sounds like Barry Bonds. Like, nope, we're not pitching to him unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah. So Howard, I would say, was not terrible, but he wasn't as much of a standout as some of those other guys were.
Yeah. So, craziness. Oh, Barry Bonds. Never admitted to it, but we always kind of figured he did.
But Barry Bonds' walk numbers there, like the last few years of his career, were so starting in 2000, and I'm going to skip over 2005 because he only played 14 games. These were the number of walks Barry Bonds had: 117, 177, 198, 198, 148, 232.
Oh my God.
115 and 132. And the intentional walks in those years were 22, 35, 68, 61, 120, 38, and 43.
Oh my
God. And see, the funny thing is too, there's a baseball book that I have, was written by this guy, Bill James, who's like the father of sabermetrics and everything, where he once ran a simulation in some baseball computer simulation game where he had like prime Babe Ruth, like 1920 or 21 Babe Ruth, and put him on a team with like individual seasons of other guys who were like the worst hitters you could ever imagine, and ran like a complete season like twice. One in which the instructions were pitch to Babe Ruth like he's any other player, and the other one which was walk him every single time he comes to the plate. And I can't remember what the results were like, but it was pretty freaking interesting. I'll have to look that up for next time, because I can't remember which way it went, but it basically showed that one strategy was clearly the best, but I just can't remember which one it was. But again, so it's a fascinating thing to think, yeah, should I walk 2004 Barry Bonds every time he comes to the plate, or let him possibly hit a grand slam against me? So
I mean, there was that year where they should have won the World Series, where they choked, where he got intentionally walked a shit ton of times in the postseason that year too. So
yes, let me look that up. The 2002 World Series against the Angels, he had 30 plate appearances. He walked in 13 of those. 7 of them were intentional.
Yeah, that's a lot in the postseason.
Yeah.
And they pitched to him.
Well, hey, in that series, he went 8 for 17 with 2 doubles and 4 home runs. So yeah, it was like, we can't let him beat him. We can't let him beat us, though.
And see, that's just the thing. I mean, when you talk about your performance enhancers,
it bothers me. So it still bothers
those things. Yes, they help. They make you stronger. Yes, they can increase your bat speed. But the one simple thing I'll always say is, they don't allow you to hit the ball. That is still something that you either can do or you can't fucking do.
And I do think he
Barry Bonds was great at it.
He had the best, I think, hand-eye coordination of any baseball player I've ever seen. Like, I think he saw the ball out of the pitcher better than maybe anybody we've ever seen in our lifetime. So,
yeah. Well, and I also think, of course, that's one of the reasons they call them performance enhancers. Because It'll help you hit the ball farther. It'll help you swing the bat quicker. It'll help you recover from injury.
Yes.
Faster, which is obviously a big thing. And ultimately, I think I really think that's probably the reason why guys took them more so than anything else, was to make sure that they stayed on the field and everything. But I've always contended that the absolute hardest thing to do in sports, meaning any sport, is to hit a ball with a bat. I obviously think that hitting a ball is the hardest thing to do in any sport that you can think of and everything. So,
they've run so many different things and tests, and the amount of time that a batter in the major leagues has to react to a pitch is freaking minuscule. Like, I don't remember the exact number, but it is ridiculously small, like the amount of time that they have to react. And that's why they're even talking about moving it back. The mound, what is it, 3 feet, 10 feet?
Yeah, they were supposed to test that out in some minor leagues with, I think, moving the pitcher's mound back, or the rubber rather.
Yeah.
2 feet, which
was supposed to add,
I don't think it's a good idea.
A tenth of a second or something like that to the pitch time.
It's supposed to give the hitters better reaction time. I think their hope is that it would cut down on strikeouts. It may do that, but I think it's also going to lead to more pitcher injuries. So I'm not sure that it's a good idea. I mean, I'd like to
That's
see.
no worry, because the pitchers are going to overcompensate.
Right. It's like I'd like to see like actual data on that, just to see what they come to the conclusion with. But again, if it's going to mean like a lot of guys like wrecking themselves, then it's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things.
It's like, well, they always said like that old adage about keep your eye on the ball. It's like, I think this is what kind of like what you were alluding to with how short the reaction time is. It's like, if you're truly keeping your eye on the ball, you'll never actually hit it,
Yeah. It's more of an instinct when you're up there batting. Okay, I see the pitcher, how he released the ball. That ball is going to go this way.
Right. It's about timing. It's about basically guessing which pitch they're going to throw you.
Yeah.
And knowing that, okay, it's going to break this way, it's going to break that way, so I need to swing here, I need to swing at this moment or that moment.
Except for the Houston Astros when they cheated and
right
banged on the garbage can. Oh, it's this pitch. I know it's this pitch. Or they had the buzzer in their pocket, buzzing them.
Did you ever see the joke that Family Guy made about the Astros with that? I
did not. Oh, I got to find this now.
It was, you can find it on YouTube, but it was basically like, it was like almost like a behind the music. Remember that VH1 show? Type like, documentary expose where they're like talking to players saying like, well, we knew they were doing it. We just didn't know who it was. And then they're showing like the Astros team picture. They're kind of like panning across it saying like, nobody would ever admit to who the culprit was. But if you look real closely in that team picture, there's Oscar the Grouch in his trash can.
Okay, yeah.
You get that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. I'm just giving you a big smile.
No, I'm meaning Jeremy because he didn't really react.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was in the midst of trying to find that whole thing. So,
it's one of those fun Family Guy jokes. But yeah, again, baseball's hard. Like in a league of their own, when Gina Davis was complaining, like, it just got too hard, and Tom Hanks is like, the hard is what makes it great.
This is
ESPN
awesome.
now returns to our 30 for 30 documentary on the Houston Astros cheating scandal.
We knew the Astros were stealing signals. Someone was back there banging on a trash can. We just couldn't figure out who.
Several players were interviewed by the league, but none would reveal the mastermind of this garbage can scheme.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, she's just sitting there in the front row,
Somebody's banging
that's awesome.
Trash can. Oh man,
Family Guy. I can't believe that I forgot that they said it was a 30 for 30. It's like, of course it was a 30 for 30, and
that is funny.
Oh, you gotta love it. Gotta love it. Makes you wonder. It does make you wonder, like, if they didn't know the pitches, or if they didn't have an idea what the pitch is going to be, would they have had such high success? Because the Houston Astros, I don't know what their record is now, but they seem to be doing okay as far as I know.
Well,
they've got like 95 wins. I mean, sign stealing scandals go back for forever. I mean, back in 1951, where the National League season ended with the playoff between the Giants and the Dodgers, and ended with Bobby Thompson's famous, shot heard round the world. The Giants were way behind the Dodgers late into the season, and they erased like a double-digit game deficit. And there's always been this big accusation that the Giants were stealing signs.
Mm-hmm.
That they had this like elaborate system set up where they would see the sign and they would like relay it through some kind of like signal to the guy at the plate and everything. But there's also people who contend with the amount of time that it took them to do that, it couldn't have given them that much of an advantage, because by the time that the hitter would have actually gotten the signal, the ball would have been like on top of them. And people have also said that the Giants actually played better on the road during that stretch than at home. And of course, they couldn't do this elaborate thing on the road. So,
yeah,
it always depends upon who you talk to. If you ever talk to a member of the 51 Dodgers, though, they were pretty salty about it, through the end. So, but yeah,
Dodgers are the Dodgers.
Yeah, sign stealing, and the Dodgers weren't going to beat the Yankees that year anyway. Sign stealing scandals go back probably as long as signs were used.
Teams are always trying to get one up, trying to get better than the next team, and trying to something. And it's like that in all sports. It's just you should. I understand trying to be better than the next team and the next team, but why do we got to go through those kind of illegal, elaborate cheating measures to do it? Like, that's the thing. Like, I guess I'm just an honest person. It's hard for me to like, everybody knows I coach. Like, I would never think about trying to cheat to win a game. No matter how much. Like, I've never taught my kids to hold jerseys, never taught them to, do things that you could probably get away with that most coaches that I've done in pickup games, here and there. But that's, and it's different because you're playing a pickup game, sometimes you do a little, you play, you're goofing around and you're holding the guy's jersey. You're not doing it, because it's just for fun. But I've never taught my kids to do that, but I've seen other teams do it. Like, I've seen other kids do it on teams. Now, I can't say that their coaches are teaching them to do that, but I've definitely seen jersey holding in basketball. Guys are trying to run, and you see the jersey get pulled away from the guy. You see holding of arms and shit like that. So, even in little league stuff, you see that kind of stuff because kids aren't as good as the next kid, and and stuff like that. So,
I've never really. I mean, I've got, back when I was younger, I got in a lot of fights with my brothers playing basketball because my brothers were dipshits, but I never played that way, like dirty that either, Jeremy. I've never really grabbed somebody, not intentionally. Like, my hand may have gotten caught in a jersey accident, but I've never pulled somebody's jersey or done anything like that in a basketball game either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately did play against when I played like youth baseball. There were some coaches on other teams who, I guess the best word to describe them was unscrupulous. They weren't basically saying like go out and do stuff that's illegal or do stuff that's cheating, but they basically pushed the boundaries as far as they could. There was this one guy in particular who's was an assistant coach on his son's team. His son was like the best player on the team. We played them one night. They were so much better than we were. It was, and my team wasn't bad, but we were more of like a middle of the pack type of team, and this was like the best team in the league. And one night they got a big lead on us, and so my coach said, all right, I'm gonna play guys where they don't normally play. So like I got to go play first base rather than play the outfield, and he put guy into pitch who didn't ever pitch before, I think, that year. And other guys were just playing positions where they didn't normally play and everything. Because at that point, I think we even stopped keeping score. We lost track of what it was.
Right.
That didn't matter to this guy. He wanted to just keep scoring runs. He was like, so it kind of became like a comedy of errors. Like our play was sloppy, as you would expect, with guys playing positions they'd never really played before, even in practice. But this guy was doing things like, a guy would get on third base and we'd be like throwing the ball back to the pitcher. And he was coaching third base and he would tell the kid on third base to run home. The play is really over, but it's not. And so he's telling everybody to just keep running. So it's not illegal, but it's not exactly sportsmanlike.
Yeah, no, it's not good sportsmanship at all.
So finally, I throw the ball back to the pitcher because I had the ball for some reason. So finally, all of a sudden, I hear really loudly from my left side, which is where our dugout was or our bench was. I hear time. I'm like I know that voice, but I don't know that tenor. You know what I mean? And it was my manager. He comes walking out. He walks halfway onto the field, and he is staring death at this guy. And he just goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And he is speaking so loudly that he could be heard at the fields that were 3 fields away. Because, we played at a complex that had a lot of fields and everything. Mm-hmm. He's looking at this guy and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" And the whole field just went dead silent. You could have the expression, you could have heard a pin drop. Yeah, you could have heard a pin hitting the grass. That's how quiet it got. He's like, "We're trying to just play a game, and you're trying to win the World Series." Said, "What is wrong with you?" Yeah, turns to all of us on the field, shell shocked. "Come on, gang." He pulled us off the field.
Oh yeah, there's just no reason for it. And Joe can attest to this because we've coaching together and stuff. We've been in those games where we're up by 20 points or more, and my rule was always if I get up by that much, one, the guys that don't normally get to play as much, you're going in, and then 2, if we're still easily scoring, now it's everybody needs to touch the ball before we score. Or there's a certain number of pass limit, either 4 passes or everybody's got. There's I set limits on it because there's no need ever to embarrass another team like that.
Yeah, and that's all this guy was doing that night, and it's like they went we obviously were basically forfeiting the game. I mean, again, they were killing us. It wasn't like the game was in doubt, but they lined up for the traditional post game handshake and everything. We sat on the bench. We did not go shake their hands.
I wouldn't.
He was that pissed. He knew that if he touched hands with any of the coaches on that team, that he was probably going to deck one of them. And this was not a guy who got angry easily, and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had never seen him that mad in my life. I never saw him that mad in my life again. Afterwards, for all the years I knew him, had a relationship with him. The karmic, if you will, postscript to this was that team went to the championship game. We all, as a team, almost to a man, every kid on the team and our parents went to the championship game to root for the other team, and the other team beat them.
Nice. That's good karma.
Yeah.
All right. So I was. Give me a second.
I had a story, but we'll save it. Go ahead, because Matt's clamoring to talk about wrestling.
Yeah.
So it's fine. Go ahead.
I was just about to say, I think it's about time for some wrestling. Reason being is not because of Matt or anybody else. It is because we have the coup d'etat. No, that's not right.
He's rubbing his head and biting his fingers, right? To talk about
the coup de grace. That's the word that's the phrase I'm looking for. Of Mount Rushmore's coming up that has to do with wrestling, where we are going to be picking our favorite 4 old-time wrestlers, right? And then our favorite.
No. This one is just your 4.
Oh, just 4. Okay, just our 4 favorite wrestlers of all time. That was the
thing Joe was talking about. This is just 4. It can be guys who are not wrestling anymore. You can have guys on there who are. It's completely up to you.
Okay. I got the 2 mixed up because when Survivor Series comes around, we are doing a special Survivor Series Mount Rushmore 2, and that I got those 2 confused, so thank you for correcting that. But yes, we are having a ultimate.
We'll talk about that later.
Best your favorite wrestlers of all time, Mount Rushmore. We're all going to pick pick 4 people for our own personal Mount Rushmore.
Pat, I was disappointed, Pat, when me and Joe made our like jobber teams on the group text, and you didn't throw one out there with all the like jobber wrestler guys.
Which day was that?
Joe put like the Red Rooster and stuff in his team, and I put Bastion Booger and Battle Cat and Saba Simba. And I thought for sure you would chime in with some team of 4 jobbers.
When you threw Battle Cat out there, I was like, is he naming wrestlers or is he talking about He-Man characters?
There was a wrestler.
It's when you posted the Book of Boba Fett debuts on December 29th.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can't remember why I didn't. Yeah,
so
that is weird. I didn't do that.
You know what? I don't personally care, Pat. Shut up for once. Just shut your face.
Sorry, I was just trying to finish the thought. I'm sorry.
So since I do not watch wrestling pretty much at all, I might see some highlights of some shit. What happened in wrestling this week? Anything good?
The draft. They started the draft yesterday, so
they started the draft, but it's the breakdown and some of the stuff that they said seemed a little confusing. And then I also saw it said where it's not actually going to go into effect for 3 weeks.
So after Crown Jewel.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't think that's a bad idea. It's like,
but why not do the draft then, though?
I look at it this way.
They got to move belts.
You do it. I mean, in the sports where they have drafts where it matters, are they going out and playing the next week? So I just think that it's not that bad of an idea to do the draft, to say, okay, this is where these shows everybody's going to be on, but it's not going to go into effect for 2 weeks, so we can just kind of wrap things up. And you could also maybe like, I don't know, build some anticipation. It's like, oh, Roman and Drew are going to be on the same show now. Maybe we could see them go after each other. Yeah, I don't really have a problem with that, but where they don't really make it clear as to who's like, they almost imply that like not everybody's eligible to be drafted at a certain time. And
well, no, they drafted like more people today on Talking Smack though. So
I did see that, but that actually just made it a little more confusing in some ways. But it's like, whatever. I mean,
this was the second straight week that NXT was the worst show, so we can almost
continue that way.
The shittiest show every week. And I'm telling you, if you would have told me 6 months ago that Raw was going to be better than NXT 1 week, I would have laughed. And now it's happened 2 weeks, and Raw wasn't great, but NXT is just going down the shitter.
Well, then I can watch the shortened versions of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I have got to. Now that NXT has turned into a pile of turds, I have to go back and watch NXT and be like, wow, it really is this bad.
Watching the short version of Raw is a good thing.
It's only a 90-minute version. I'm like, woohoo!
I was going to say, now, when you're saying watch the short version, is there like some shortened version available, or do you mean like you DVR'd it and you just like fast forward through the commercial?
No, on Hulu, you can watch Hulu all 3 of them the next day, like the day after they air, but they only give you they only give you a 90-minute version.
So, well, obviously, then of course they cut out commercials, but do they also like count out like the endless recaps of what you just saw on hours?
Yes, you don't get a ton of those. You don't get all those.
Yeah,
here's the thing.
Very few. Sorry.
So when I was watching pretty religiously, probably a good year or so ago, I think I stopped pretty much watching religiously when COVID hit and it got weird, and I just couldn't do the non-crowd things.
Right.
The problem that I had was you would get to see all the matches. But they would still throw in like the 20-minute freaking intro promo and like just garbage that like I felt bad for the people that were watching the full 3 hours for, because I'm like, man, this is 90 minutes and I got to watch half this garbage and some of the terrible matches that they put on.
Pat, you suckered me in. Because you said Jim Cornette was funny. And then I watched 3 minutes of it and turned it off because he can't say a nice thing about Kenny Omega either. So fuck him.
Which part do you mean?
When he was talking about the match with Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, like he just did on Kenny immediately. He's like, basically said the match was only good because Bryan Danielson was in it. So he's a dipshit. So
no, and look, I will freely admit, he takes it so personally. I guess this stuff that Omega did in Japan, of which I really have no knowledge.
It's not that
and I don't care to go look up. I mean, I don't care if he wrestled.
What, wrestling the blow up doll? He's so upset about that?
Yes.
Jesus
I don't
Christ.
I don't care if he wrestled the Invisible Man or the blow up doll, because one, if that shit was in Japan, it's like, yeah, I don't mean to be like, offensive here, but there are certain things about Japanese culture that I find a little weird. Okay. Just as I'm sure Japanese people find plenty of stuff about our culture weird, as well they should. But getting entertainment out of watching somebody wrestle a blow-up doll or the Invisible Man or whatever, it's like, okay, fine. If that's what they like, that's what they like. I don't have to like it. I also don't have to watch it. Cornette has this, of course, has the very old school mentality about the wrestling business, which I think is good in some ways. And then in some ways, it's like, dude, you're taking it too fucking personally. And it does make it hard for me to filter out some of the things that he says about Omega, because he has said some things about Omega that have never tracked with me, in the sense that he's talking about Omega in one way, then I go watch what he's referring to, and I'm like, I don't see that. I don't hear that. He talks about how Omega talks in this breathy phone sex operator type voice. Anytime I've heard Omega cut a promo, that's not how I would describe the way he sounds.
And I mean,
so he's not. He's not talking like this. And how are you doing, sir?
well, I can't remember ever actually hearing Omega talk like that. So,
and everybody's
because I've missed it.
When you've had a long wrestling career, most guys have probably had a moment, or they've had some time where maybe they weren't in the best storyline ever, like Kenny with the blow up doll. Maybe that doesn't work with everybody. So like, he is way too worried about that. That happened so like years ago, and it's made him like, it's just that match was so good, and it was because of both of them. And I was like, oh, maybe Jim Cornette's gonna finally give him credit here, because this match was one of the best matches I've seen this year, and he still can't give him credit.
Which one is that on? Which one of his podcasts does he do like those reviews? Because he's got two. I got the Jim Cornette Experience and Jim Cornette's Drive Through.
I just YouTube thing.
It varies as to which show. The Experience show generally comes out on Saturdays, and the Drive Through comes out on Tuesdays. So his review of that Dynamite episode, I'm pretty sure, was on an episode of The Experience, because the Wednesday show would have aired, and then they would have recorded in between and everything. I mean, yeah, he also likes to go after he says that Omega's got this Japanese schoolgirl fetish, which, again, it's like,
who doesn't? No, I'm only kidding.
So again, it's like,
you dirty man.
It's like, okay, if he does, so the fuck what?
As long as they're not actual schoolgirls.
Yeah.
As long as they're legal age.
Well, the thing is with Riho, as he likes to say, when they contended that Riho started wrestling professionally, she was.
So they've apparently, it sounds like Tony Khan took the booking power away from the EVPs now too. That's rumors been out there multiple times this week. It sounds like they don't have creative control over everything now. It's Tony Khan, and
I will say I think that's a good thing. It's
been like that for a while too, because I saw they said Kenny's like in charge of the video game part of it, and like one of the Young Bucks is in charge of merchandise. So they have something they're doing that's above and beyond what they're doing, but they don't have that creative control, it sounds like, anymore. So
right, and I think that's a good thing. It's like, allow them to do other things backstage, which ultimately will be beneficial to the company. Having good merchandise will, having a quality video game will. But I said this before, I thought that it was going to have to come to a time where they were going to have to draw the line and say, all right, one person's in charge and everything. I don't know if Tony Khan still is really the best person to do that, being that, he's had never been a wrestling booker or promoter in any way, shape, or form before. But I think that limiting it to these guys being able to make suggestions for how they want to do things and how they want storylines to run, that's perfectly fine. I think you should seek out your talents, opinions and everything like that. But to have them actually calling the shots is where you start getting into trouble. And we've seen that with, shit like what happened in the later days of WCW and everything. So, I think this is I think that ultimately this is a good move that will be beneficial to AEW.
It's interesting that AEW Dynamite, a lot of times, and Joe will probably agree with me on this, that their best match is the first match. More often than not, the best match in that show is the opening match. So, because Adam Cole and Jungle Boy was the best match I saw this week, I think, on any show. That match was fantastic.
I quickly lost interest after that opening match,
yes.
And then their group did their promo and everything.
After that,
I was kind of like, oh.
I thought they were doing that to kick Gallows and Anderson out. That's what I thought was going to happen, because those two need to be kicked out because they don't need them. They don't need them.
It's not going to happen anytime soon.
So I want them to get rid of them. So I want them to kick them out. So,
I mean, see, you have a really great foursome. I mean, as much as
they already have two
foursomes.
Goons. They already have two goons.
Right. This is exactly.
They're horrible goons.
You've got in a lot of ways a modern day Four Horsemen with Omega, Cole, and the Bucks. As much as I still have my issues with the Bucks and everything, but still, you've got like a modern day like Four Horsemen thing. You've got the
mouthpiece.
You've got the manager with Callis right now, as much as he can be involved. But then you've got two goons and two hangers-on.
Hanger-ons?
Can we also
got
now
some warts
make
on their
this,
ass?
Can we make this more like the 97 version of the Horsemen and also have like 3 fucking women come out with them every week too, so that you have
we could. That'd be great.
So that you have
the right ones.
So that you have like the full scale entourage in there all the time. It's ridiculous. It's like
you could have the new woman, the new Miss Elizabeth, some other chick.
Random. I thought they were gonna. That's why they were doing that promo, was to kick them out. It was funny though when they were like, "This is the best promo in the business," and then they gave the mic to Nakazawa.
So it's really either get rid of the goons or get rid of the hangers-on, or both, preferably.
So would we say the hangers-on are more like a dingleberry?
Cutler.
Yeah.
they are that too. That's about as much value as they add.
And the show got kind of in the middle. It got, MJF was great when he said that he has Bruce Pritchard on speed dial. That was fabulous.
And MJF's promo, he once again proved why he is one of the best, if not the best promo in the business right now.
When he called Darby a skateboarding mime or whatever, that was hilarious.
Yeah. He made Darby look kind of dumb in that promo, but Darby kind of gave it back a little, so I like that promo.
No, and it's fine. That's a good place for those two. That you've got two of their talents, and Sammy Guevara finally got his due. He finally won a belt, and that dude has deserved a belt for 6 months.
I totally skipped watching that match because I just figured he had no chance of winning that.
Oh, me and Joe actually talked about it the day before, and I said, me and Joe both said, if Miro and Sammy is the last match, Guevara's going to win.
Joe, what did you want to say, sir?
I wanted to go back to the Kenny Omega thing with Cornette and his promos. So I know what Cornette's talking about. So it was mostly in Japan. But here's the reason why he did it. Let me ask you a question. When you're watching Japanese movie, you see the dub over. How does it look?
Usually,
how does it sound? How does it sound?
Wait a minute. Are you referring to the word sometimes or whatever when the mouth movements are saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
He spoke his promos. He used to do his promos in that type of format when he was in Japan. Like, he knows how to speak Japanese fluently. So he would cut a promo in English and it would be kind of that tone, and he would talk like with spaces between the words to replicate that specifically. And then he would cut the rest of his promo in Japanese and stuff like that.
So he was purposely slowing down his speech.
Correct. And of course the problem is like that's what I don't get, because people don't understand with Omega. Like, he has some of his storylines are just not like 6 months. He had a storyline with one of his ex-tag team partners that was like a 2-year storyline. They start off a tag team, won the tag belts. They kind of split up, had a mini feud per se with each other. And then one went his way and then Omega went his way. And then towards the end, they kind of came back and they kind of like finished the storyline.
Well, that's kind of what they're doing with Hangman and Kenny potentially. So
well,
correct. And that's why I'm not really upset about that, because I have a feeling they're going the same semi route and concept with him and Hangman.
So here's my thought. I'm going to assume that Cornette watches wrestling from all over. Like, he watches it from all over. But maybe he doesn't understand 100% how the Japanese wrestling is done. Like, in the way they do.
I just don't think he cares for it.
You know, and maybe he does understand and doesn't care for it. But you can't, just because you don't care for a product doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. Even if some of the stuff is really goofy or quirky or whatnot, you can't hang a whole person's career on one portion of their career. You got to eventually get past that and say, okay, I'm looking at this person now. How have they evolved? How are they different? You know, have they evolved? If they're still doing the same shtick from, you know, in a previous thing because they haven't evolved, well, okay, then you can kind of poop on them if you want to.
I mean, and Kenny, the exploding match that they did earlier this year was not good. That match was
those matches shouldn't even try those gimmick matches
that match
anymore.
Was kind of a fail. AEW failed with that one. So, but if you take that match out of the equation, Kenny gets in the ring. They call him the best bout machine because that's what he does. You put the guy in the ring and he has good matches with everybody. His only match this year that wasn't great was the exploding match, and the match itself was fine. They were just trying to do a gimmick. They were trying to do too much, and then the ring exploding was bad. But then, you know, it's you have WWE with Finn Balor, the fucking rope breaking, and we've still not got an explanation for why that happened. So, like, that
was the cameraman.
So, Jeremy, just at the pay-per-view on Sunday, Sheamus had wrestled earlier in the night, and he had climbed up on this top rope like 3 times, Jeremy. So in the main event, when Roman and Finn fought, Finn was going to win. He was standing on the top rope, and the top rope broke. It was a gimmick, clearly, but there's been no explanation yet why the ring rope broke. They just have kind of written it off and said, oh, well, the ring rope broke. There's no explanation. That was just our shit finish.
Okay.
180-pound Finn Balor broke the ropes, but 250 or 270-pound Sheamus did not. But 180 pounds soaking wet, Finn Balor broke the top rope.
So by the time Finn Balor and them, at some point in time, unbeknownst to the crowd, they gimmicked the top rope.
Yes, because if you watch, you can see
the cameraman did it.
You can see Finn brace himself. You can see him in his face. You can tell he's bracing himself because he knows it's going to break.
Yeah.
Oh, WWE.
That was their finish to a pay-per-view, and the pay-per-view itself was fine. It wasn't a bad pay-per-view. Most of the matches were solid, but that was what we got. We got that garbage finish at the end, and I wanted Roman to win, but I didn't really want some finish like that where Paul Heyman should have been the one that did it or something. There should have been a reason why the ring rope broke. And WWE, just because the draft started, it's almost like they just pretended it. Oh, it happened.
Well, if they don't acknowledge it, it doesn't happen.
So what? It was just kind of disappointing. It was a disappointing end to that pay-per-view.
It's like accidentally wiping your ass and putting your finger in your butthole and liking it. If you don't if you pretend it didn't happen, then it didn't really happen. I didn't really like that. I'm just going to continue to wipe my ass.
You don't get nothing.
Ooh, I didn't like that. Nope, I didn't like that. But showing that, ooh, that felt good. Nope.
We got to see Seth show up at Edge's house last night, and Seth is so good at playing that like smarmy heel, and he showed up at Edge's house and was like acting like he was gonna do something to Edge's kids, and then like Edge called FTR, called him by their real names, but he actually they had him calling FTR on the phone. So that's an interesting cross promotion thing last night, that he was calling Harwood and Dash or whatever, he was calling them on his phone because I guess he's really good friends with them and they're in AEW. So it was really strange that he called them.
I think it's pretty sad that WWE's going back to the home invasion gimmick.
They haven't done it for a while.
Home invasion.
Seth's the perfect person to do it though, because he does that cackle, and that cackle is like hard to duplicate, that like cackle laugh that he does. So
I just remember them doing that when Triple H and Randy Orton were feuding, and didn't Randy Orton go to Triple H's home and go after Stephanie?
Well, they did it with Cena and Orton too, and I mean, come on, Pillman and Austin was the greatest home invasion ever. So
yes, it was.
He's got a gun.
At least we're not seeing another supermarket sweep with two WWE people.
And Stone Cold.
Yeah, at least we're not getting a redo of that whole thing.
You know what though?
That was still one of my favorites.
No, I'm not taking anything away from that. I thought it was great at the time. I'm just glad they didn't try and redo it.
No, they shouldn't, because they said that wasn't really scripted. They've said that they kind of just winged it. So.
Yep.
And he was like, price check on a jackass or whatever. Like they kind of were just winging it on that. So like that made it more special that they just were like, we're gonna figure it out as we go.
Well, yeah, and it was a real grocery store that they paid to rent.
Tore up.
And then they tore the thing up, like legit tore it up. So it's that I loved it in the moment, and I'm glad they've never tried to redo it, because there's just certain things like. Once is good, unless you're going to do it like 20 to 30 years later, where most of the people that saw it the first time don't know that these people did not know that this happened, so it's brand new to them. That's different. But yeah, so
Pat, Joe actually told me something the other day that made me I kind of changed my mind a little bit about the guy that you call the Jim Cornette knockoff. Joe told me that guy
Dan Lambert.
He's a huge wrestling mark, Joe said. Like, he loves professional wrestling. So I think him doing this is something he has wanted to do because he's a wrestling person. I didn't really realize he was that big of a wrestling guy. I don't really like the storyline still because I don't understand where exactly they're going with it. But I don't dislike him as much now, knowing that he's like a big wrestling mark, and he is probably doing this because for him it's cool that he gets to, be in a wrestling storyline.
Yeah, he collects all the old wrestling belts and a lot of other merchandise and memorabilia and stuff like that. So he has a huge collection of things.
I actually only watched the Bryan Danielson Nick Jackson match last night on Dynamite or on Rampage. I didn't want to watch the women's match. And supposedly Jade Cargill botched a bunch of shit again.
So let's define botch, because I don't think she.
Least.
Okay, so the actual match itself was semi sloppy. Thunder Rose is the best person in that match.
You're right, for sure.
So Nyla's not bad. She's just a big woman. Jade is the same. Jade's still green, so her moves just seem very. She seems they're rough looking, unfortunately. But so in time, hopefully that gets better.
Yeah, that means she probably needs to be off TV then.
She didn't really botch anything per se. Some of the moves probably weren't done smoothly, or it seems like a couple times someone might have missed something and they kind of like improvised. The biggest issue I had was her chair shots. There was a couple of them that were fine, but there was some other ones that whoa, pump the brakes. You're like 6 foot and you can lift a brick house and you're strong as shit, and you're ripping the shit with this chair on Thunder Rosa, who's half your size. And I was like, whew, I mean, she already got, well, see, since you didn't watch the show, I watched the show because I was curious about the road show. And she got in trouble for smacking Red Velvet in that segment because she smacked Red Velvet extremely too hard and left a handprint on her face. So she kind of got in trouble for that by Brandy in regards to it. So I'm like, she's probably going to get shit for those chair shots she did last night on Thunder, or the other night on Thunder Rosa, because they were definitely oof. Yeah, a couple of them
make
were
it
fine.
Look good.
Yeah,
you don't have to hurt people.
The ones on the backs were fine, but like Thunder Rose is selling it for her, and then she's kind of like waiting, and she was kind of like fuck it, and then she started like hitting him like randomly, and I'm like, oh my god, what are you doing? Stop, please, you're gonna hurt Thunder.
It's interesting that they moved Hit Row up to SmackDown because B-Fab is green as hell. Like she is, the other three guys can wrestle, but she's not good in the ring, Joe. She's had 2 matches and she looks bad. And I'm like, wow, maybe they're just going to make her strictly a valet when they move them to SmackDown because she can't wrestle. Like she's bad right now. I mean, she's learning and she clearly maybe is fairly new.
They're going to force her to learn on the main roster. That's what they're going to do. And she's going to either sink or swim.
That'll work.
That was one of the things that I liked. That was one of the things I really liked on NXT. So there goes that. Hit Rose on SmackDown. And I still think Gargano might get drafted Monday. So NXT is just... How can you ruin a show? That was the best wrestling show on a week-to-week basis for a long time. And now they've completely ruined it.
Yeah. Vince McMahon loses just a tiny bit and he will take over and take a big shit on it and fucking tear it down.
I know how to make this better. Let's put a bunch of big muscular guys,
sweaty men,
and make sure that they're between the ages of 20 and 30. And they haven't really ever wrestled before, and they don't know how to talk on the mic. What else can we do? No, that sounds good. And then we'll get these really pretty girls that don't know anything about wrestling. That sounds good too. All right, put the show on.
I do think that Rick Steiner's kid has all kinds of potential, and I'm okay with him. But none of the other guys, none of the other new people, I don't give 2 shits about any of them. So really,
I'm curious on some of them, but the other ones I'm still indifferent on. It's gonna be, I mean, what was that one guy? They already changed his gimmick after a week.
Who, Gacy? the woke guy?
Yeah, the guy had a woke gimmick character. I'm like, wow.
Oh my god! Let's bring politics and bullshit into this.
He cut a promo, did a promo, and the next week, God.
Yeah, they probably learned the hard way. You don't do woke gimmicks. You don't do anything political gimmicks. Like that's just.
They should just bring a guy back and play this theme song again. Let's get some brother love up in here, man.
I love brother love.
I mean, think about it. They've never been successful with doing like political gimmicks. I mean, think of how terrible Muhammad Hassan ended up being and everything. So
yeah,
Right to Censor was okay.
The Right to Censor did okay. Yeah, they did
okay
for the most part. Some of them,
but that was around for really like a year at most.
But whatever, it still worked for a while. Like I thought it was entertaining at points during it. I didn't think it was bad. So
the ironic thing then, of course, is that like the type of group that they were lambasting, if you will, then is the exact opposite of the type of people that they were lambasting with a woke gimmick. So it is pretty funny.
Vince, everything like all the stuff that Jeremy just said about NXT, Pat, you should have finished it up and said, this is some good shit.
Such good shit.
Jeremy's right. Jeremy's not even really watching it, and he kind of already knows what's going on it. For somebody that's not really watching it, he did a pretty good job of summing that up.
Well, the thing is
so he did.
So here's the thing, and we've all watched wrestling for a fucking very long time. Me off and on from time to time. Sometimes I watched a lot when Hogan and them guys were in, and then I took a break. And then when Rock and all those guys became, started to come up, I watched it a lot then. Then I took a break. Cena and them guys were, coming up. Then I was on it again, and now I'm taking a break. But the formula for fucking Vince has never changed through the entire era. It's always been the same since he took over. Big muscular guys that look powerful, but some are athletic. Most of them can't fucking talk on the mic. That's his fucking formula. And he thinks it's always going to work. And it just doesn't always work. There's always guys that are going to work in that formula.
Oh, God, look at him. Yeah. Look at those muscles.
And he loved being one of those guys, too. When he was on the cover of Fitness Magazine, he was all jacked up on roids.
With the fucking
like
chains around his neck.
He loved being one of those big guys. Like, I'm a big guy, too. I love my big guy, I'm sorry. Like, you can't have a whole fucking wrestling roster full of those fucking guys. It just doesn't work. And if it's not big muscular guys, it's just big fat guys. Like King Kong Bundy and fucking guys like that. Like I'm sorry. It just doesn't always work.
They actually gave Brock Lesnar a microphone and let him cut a backstage promo last night. He was actually kind of funny. Like he threw Heyman under the bus again. So he's
been doing good with his promos lately.
We're like, wow, Brock Lesnar gets his own mic time with nobody. It was him by himself with an interviewer, and he told the interviewer to hit the bricks basically, and threw Heyman under the bus again. I told Joe that the ultimate payoff from this has to be Heyman going back with Brock. Like there's no other payoff from the Roman Reigns Brock thing other than Heyman has to go back with Brock. So
yeah.
And I probably Mario,
Brock does not need to win at Crown Jewel either. That we don't need. Brock's probably going to be the one to beat Roman, but it doesn't need to happen at this Crown Jewel.
The best thing at that can happen at Crown Jewel is that it gets canceled. The Crown Jewel gets canceled. They're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't do it."
Yeah, I don't mean to be a dickhead to the people in Saudi Arabia who are WWE fans and everything, but I'm sorry, they don't deserve to get to see like big matches and title changes like that. That's
Pat, you saw that they are doing a King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournament, so we're getting a Queen of the Ring.
Yes. Queen's Crown.
I'm actually kind of excited to see who's going to be in that for the female side. I don't give a shit about the men's side, to be honest.
All I can say about that is if they do as good of a job in like making whoever wins this Queen of the Ring tournament, irrelevant, be then like the queen and everything, the way that they do with whoever they make be the king and everything, then it'll be a rousing success.
Well, what they should do, here's what they really should do. Okay, this is my thing. You have the king and the queen, they win, and they become a tag team, a mixed tag team, and all they fight is mixed tag teams.
I mean, they could have Bianca Montez. They could have Bianca and Montez win, or they could have Seth and Becky win.
And all they do is fight mixed tag teams, and makes both of them completely irrelevant. They never have a storyline that goes anywhere, and therefore, nothing ever happens because nothing usually does ever happen from the King of the Ring. Very, very rarely.
No, it's always a short-term thing. So yeah.
There's
help this guy get over with the crowd, have him win King of the Ring.
I wonder whatever AEW is going to do an Owen Hart tournament. I wonder what that's going to end up being since they announced that.
Oh, I'm surprised WWE never jumped on that train to do an Owen Hart tournament.
Oh, because they.
Good luck with that one.
WWE.
Oh, I know she does. I remember seeing the dark side of the ring, man. She like fucking hates them with a passion.
Yeah, she'll never sign off on anything.
Yeah, part of the settlement was that for WWE to be able to use him in any way, shape, or form, she would have to give her okay. And if it was anything that was going to basically have the remote chance of WWE being able to make money off of it, she basically said, no, fuck you. Which is still trying to figure out then how they released that one DVD compilation a few years ago. Because obviously WWE made money off that. So I don't know how that actually came about successfully. So
yeah, it might have been had to do something with the fact that it's on their
Could be royalties
it's their
too.
database. It's their content.
It might be. It may have also been a thing where they just said, fuck it, we're putting it out. If she doesn't like it, tough shit.
Yeah, that's a very possibility too.
And,
there's always
she could sue them, and that'd be another thing.
Yeah.
She'd probably get royalties out of it. I would have negotiated the fuck out of that one.
So we've talked some wrestling. Very good discussion on wrestling. Good way to end, kind of bring us into our Mount Rushmore, our individual Mount Rushmores of our favorite wrestlers of all time. Well, maybe not of all time, but just our favorite wrestlers. I guess it could be all time.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of shooting for. Your four favorite wrestlers of all time. So if you want to pick Kane, then that's fine.
So we're gonna put whipped cream on the top of the penis, and maybe a pair of cherry on top of that too. All right,
let's do it.
So since AJ came up with this thought of doing this, I'm gonna have AJ go first. So AJ, your Mount Rushmore of favorite wrestlers.
Two of them I think everybody is gonna know. So
okay,
Shawn Michaels and The Rock.
Okay. Junkyard Dog. Go ahead.
What?
I said Junkyard Dog.
Nikolai Volkov.
So Dwayne and Shawn Michaels were the easy ones. These other ones were tough. So I'm gonna go with Brock Lesnar.
Okay.
And because I was going back and forth between Lesnar and Cena, and when they fight each other, I always cheered for Lesnar. Like, I can't really think of an instance where I didn't cheer for Brock. Like, I can't, even when he fought The Rock, I was cheering for Brock. So I really have been a Brock mark from pretty much day one. So I'm the one person that's always liked Brock no matter what. And then my last person, I kind of went back and forth between my two favorite wrestlers now. And because one of them is a jobber right now on WWE, I decided to go with Mr. Adam Cole, baby, because he is probably he's been one of my favorite wrestlers for the last 4 or 5 years. Him and Kevin Owens, it's kind of been back and forth between them. And I think Owens is done in WWE at this point. I think he's a jobber essentially now. So I think he's got one
jobber
put out the door. If you would have 3 years ago, I would have picked Owens, but I'm going to take Cole now because I like both of those guys. So that my 4 is Shawn Michaels, Dwayne Johnson, Brock Lesnar, and Adam Cole.
Okay. All right. So I'll go next because I kind of had an idea of, I didn't have 100%. I wasn't 100% sure who I was going to go with, but I have a better idea. So I'm going to put Macho Man on there on my favorite. Yeah, you got to go with the Macho Man. And of course, The Rock, definitely he's by far my all-time favorite. So Macho Man and The Rock. And then, I wanted to put Cena on there. I really did. But just, I don't know. There was so many times that I felt like he got stale and it was really kind of hard to watch. But another one I'm going to put on there, and this one, AJ's going to love this one, but I'm going to put Stone Cold Steve Austin on there because I've always been a Stone Cold fan. I love watching those guys. And my last one is going to be someone more that's currently still wrestling and watched him on TNA a lot, and was AJ Styles. So I've always enjoyed him.
Me too.
I mean, he's never been it wasn't always his gimmick, the way he could talk on the mic, because that was not always very good. He's been good and bad on the mic, but it's his in-ring ability and what he could do and tell the story and shit. That's always been fucking top notch to me. So that's my 4.
Who are they again? Repeat that for me.
So we got the Macho Man, The Rock, Stone Cold, and AJ Styles.
Okay. That's a good group.
Okay, I was gonna. Do I get your approval? Thank you. All right, and since Darth Pat looks like he is extremely enamored and ready to go, Darth Pat, who's your 4, sir? Who's your Mount Rushmores?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking to myself, how do I
Big
really
John Stud.
evaluate?
Okay, that's the one.
How do I really evaluate who was like my favorite and everything? So
Hakeem, the American Hakeem. Gonna go with Hakeem.
No. Well, basically what I mean is like, were my favorite guys all just the guys like when I was growing up, or I didn't, really, of course, realize that wrestling was fake, or was it more like the guys once I was like, smart to know that it's all a show and blah, blah, blah. And I realized that any of the guys like from like the second part that I just mentioned there, like none of them were ever like more favorite for me than the guys from when I was growing up. So all my guys are pretty more old school.
There's a shocker. Didn't see that one coming.
Hey, if you don't pick your twin brother, I'm going to be really pissed. All right.
It's just the way it is. So first on that list is Macho Man. You always got to love the guy who's kind of crazy and looked kind of crazy and talked kind of crazy, but did all these amazing, high flying moves and, still look like he could kick your ass. So Macho Man, Roddy Piper. And see, the funny thing is, of course, everybody remembers Piper as being the classic heel and everything, but when I really started watching wrestling, he had turned face. So I never saw like the prime Piper, heel when he's, cracking the coconuts over Jimmy Snuka's head and feuding with Hulk Hogan and everything like that. Like my first memories of Piper are really cutting off Adrian Adonis's hair, then disappearing, and then coming back and spraying, Martin Downey Jr. with the fire extinguisher and all that shit. But Piper to me was always one of the most entertaining guys out there. Mm-hmm. So, next one then was Bret Hart, which kind of surprised me that I ended up going with Bret Hart, but I really couldn't think of anybody else who I liked better, because I remember liking Bret at first because once again, I kind of didn't really remember him being heel. So he was like always like a face, but he always had like the great underdog mentality. I always like the fact that he gave the glasses away to the kids, because I think somewhere deep down there was always that hope, like, oh, maybe I can be that kid someday, like kids like the glasses from Bret Hart. And I thought the sunglasses that he wore were cool. So, but then just having the appreciation for, again, like I said, him being like the underdog, being like the anti like 1980s WWF guy, like the guy who won because he was that good in the ring and everything like that. And he always fought hard and he never backed down and he was always there. He was like never gone. So Bret Hart. And then we come to the fourth one. And I said to myself, I don't like this guy right now. But
get on with it.
We know who you're going to take, Pat, so just do it.
Right. My point is, I don't like him anymore, but you can't really ever deny
for personal reasons.
Yeah, because of the kind of person that he turned out to be. But the problem is that you just can't ever deny that he was always the guy that I watched for and wanted to see all the time, and obviously that was Hogan. So, I would definitely not put him on a list of my favorite people. And if you ask me like who's my favorite wrestlers like now or anything like that, he wouldn't be anywhere near it. But talking all time and everything, just because of the history and everything, he has to be on that list, because I wouldn't have watched wrestling if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan. I just probably wouldn't have. So, yeah.
All right.
So reluctantly, he's on there.
Reluctantly.
I'll be honest. I was surprised that you didn't at least pick one person from the modern era, or at least the Attitude Era. I was a little surprised by that.
There just really wasn't anybody who I could say that I liked them so much that I liked them more than those four guys. I mean, I thought about Undertaker. I thought about Foley, but then I said, well, no, that's really been more of appreciation for his character, like outside the ring than everything. I wasn't ever a huge Austin fan or a huge Rock or Michaels fan, like in the sense of like being more so than those guys. Like those guys took a while for me to start liking, and Jericho would fall into that realm too. And then some more recent guys like Cena, of course, I just like, yeah, but I don't think I've ever liked Cena more than I like those other guys. So that was the way I kind of looked at it.
Yeah. All right.
Understandable.
Theo, what you got for us, sir?
Well,
I'll bet he's picking the guy on his shirt.
That's a possibility. First guy, Jeremy took.
Oh,
it's my dude AJ Styles. I'm throwing music into this bitch tonight. So rocking up, AJ Styles, a phenomenal one. He's my first person on my list. I'm surprised you and me, Jeremy, had some of that, the same person on both our lists. I was a little shocked there.
I thought about picking him too. So, but
hey, that was one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite moments of more modern wrestling history.
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it was his Royal Rumble debut. Because I never thought it would actually happen.
Well, I mean, I kind of knew it was happening because I watched New Japan. So, but still, I don't know if I have the right theme song for this next one. I forget which one this is.
Get theme music and everything.
Oh, yeah. Yes. This is the version AJ does not like of Sir Sting. Sting is my next person because this is the Crow version.
Oh, yeah, that's his Crow WCW music.
CW thing. Yes.
Before they switched up to that Metallica song.
Yeah.
It's very organy sounding.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Metallica song. I like Metallica, just not a big fan of the song. The other guy, I have just liked this guy for this guy right here.
Wow.
Rob Van Dam. Yes.
I kept a PG the whole fucking show, but
who's there?
What does that mean? Was that his ECW?
TNA.
The TNA.
That was actually his TNA music.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the TNA music is the music of his I like the most. All the ECW music wasn't bad, but that was.
Yeah, no, that music was actually really good.
That one surprised me, Joe. The other three guys you're picking, I knew. That was the one I didn't know. So.
Yeah, I was a huge. I mean, I went to ECW shows back in the day. I used to go with my friend and his cousin. His cousin drove because we didn't have our driver's license at the time, so we would drive down to Philly to go to ECW shows, and they were just awesome in regards to that. And they started coming up to what the hell is that place in Bethlehem? Stabler. They came to Stabler several times too. I saw a 8-man tag match, which was a 8-man ladders tag match, and hence that the majority of that match took place outside of the wrestling ring, while two guys were kind of inside, and everyone else was all over. In sections where the wrestlers probably shouldn't have been fighting and putting each other through tables, they were over there. And then there was guys over here in the section where it was blocked off. There was two guys in the ring. I think Sandman and Dreamer were in the ring fighting. New Jack and Rob Van Dam and them were out doing spots and into the crowd.
New Jack should probably be in prison right now.
Oh yeah, that motherfucker is just crazy.
He's crazy. Real quick, Joe.
Died, right?
The Sandman. Did you see? I
forgot that he died.
The video of Pat McAfee when he was in Philly came out like with the Sandman, like came out to enter Sandman, and he had the kendo stick, everything. He was acting like the Sandman.
Yeah. I pay attention to what Pat McAfee does. He's a very interesting character. I listen to his podcast, or his not really podcast, his morning show that he does most of the time when I get a chance to listen to it.
Right.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Hit us with.
And then
I think you're going to pick.
We all know who Joe's last person is going to be. Come on now.
Wait, how do you not know that?
I'm not 100% sure.
Hulkster.
Oh, I am.
Maybe it's the Hulkster. Yes, it is CM Punk.
Jeremy
is my last guy. So, yes, this music's awesome too. But RVD, Sting, AJ Styles, and CM Punk. Those are my four guys.
I knew three of yours. Jay's going to be, when I tell Jay you picked RVD.
I've loved RVD. He was by far my favorite ECW guy of all time.
I asked Jay and I asked Eli this question too. And Eli took Cena, Eddie Guerrero, Pete Dunne, and Adam Cole. He's a lot younger than us too. So we're 20 years. He's 20 years younger than us. So he doesn't know. And Jay took RVD, Seth Rollins, Savage, and Snuka. So,
oh boy.
Hey.
Snuka was one of those guys. Like,
yeah, but I mean
like,
that pick in a lot of ways is just as problematic as me picking Hogan. I mean,
so Snuka,
but that's from the childhood. That's the childhood thing.
Oh, I know, and yeah, it's just that's
Snuka,
one that
I don't. It's not even what happened because what happened is it happened, but as far as like overall wrestling and stuff like that, there was, in my personal opinion, there was nothing awesome about Snuka. He did like one really cool jumped off the cage, and that was like defined his entire career. It's like Snuka as an overall performer was decent, not like something special.
Right, but it's it's just like if I ask the other Pat who it's going to be, he's going to put Mr. Ass on there. And most of us think I don't think he's anything special. And he's going to put Billy Gunn on his 4 because that's one of his 4 favorite wrestlers of all time. So,
right. But that one, at least with him, there was like, I actually enjoyed watching him like wrestle.
He's not really that good of a wrestler though. Not really.
I'm not saying that he is. I at least enjoy
He's a good worker in the ring though.
Like, I'm not saying like he was the greatest wrestler, but I at least enjoyed watching him in his matches. Like, it was, there were certain things that he did, he had certain things that he could do that were watchable. Where Snuka, there wasn't like, I don't know. I can't remember anything about any of his matches like that I ever saw. Like, not that I saw a ton of his matches, but what I did, I don't fucking remember them. It's not like anything was memorable.
Well, that's the thing about this. It's just your favorites, so it doesn't really matter.
And I don't. Not faulting anybody for that. I'm just kind of surprised by the Snuka one of all of any of the people that you could pick. So that's all. Just surprised by that.
I could nitpick everybody's if I really wanted to. Trust me.
Right. So, and like I said, I'm not nitpicking. I'm just surprised.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, and once again, I'm not nitpicking. I'm just, like I said, I was just surprised by a Snuka pick, like of all the wrestlers out there.
I knew he was. That's somebody that Jay's always talked about since I've been friends with him. So like, nobody's really surprised me like 4 people they picked. Mine was tough because I was trying to pick at least one person that was currently wrestling. So because I like wrestling a lot right now, so I was trying to pick somebody that was currently wrestling. Which Joe got his shirt, and I got my Adam Cole All Elite shirt yesterday.
So what does that say? All Elite, baby.
Yes. And that's probably my favorite wrestling moment in the last 5 years was being at All Out and seeing Adam Cole show up. That's probably my favorite. Like Pat was talking about AJ being at the Royal Rumble. Being there and seeing Cole show up is probably the coolest thing I've seen in wrestling in 10 years, probably for me.
Oh, yeah, so, it's a cool moment. Anytime you get to be there.
I got to see CM Punk wrestle in Chicago to boot on that day, too. So that was another, that was like the bonus.
Yeah, anytime that you can see somebody that you really like show up unexpectedly at something like that, even though you may know that they're coming to that wrestling, but it'd be unexpected that they're going to be there that day. It's always a cool fucking moment, and it lasts, and it sticks in your mind forever.
Find me, and this is no offense to anybody else in wrestling, but they were used to wrestle in smaller venues. Find me somebody in wrestling that gets a bigger pop than Cole does for the Adam Cole baby. There's nobody right now that gets a bigger pop than he does right now for that. Like the AEW fans are eating that up right now. So he's getting the right people, because if he would have went to the main roster, the WWE fans, I don't know how well they would have taken to him. So I don't know if
it would have lasted, but it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been the same. All right. Does anybody have anything else before we kind of call it a night here?
That was good.
No.
Those were good. There was some overlap. I knew me and you were going to pick the Rock, Jeremy, like that one. I knew it was coming. So,
what another crazy day in college football.
Yeah, college football is always a toss-up. You just never know.
Well, I mean, Oregon got beat.
Florida.
They were number 3. Florida got beat. Cincinnati beat Notre Dame. Georgia killed Arkansas. I mean, right now it's like Alabama and Georgia are pretty head and shoulders everybody else. So
yeah.
But
we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out next week, Pat. If Penn State's we're gonna find out next week if they're for real.
Well, yeah, for both of those teams, really.
Yeah, one of those teams. We're gonna find out which team is for real out of those 2 teams next week. So
yeah, that'll be a pretty hard hitting affair, I think. But I don't know if you guys saw the end of that Oregon Stanford game. Stanford was down a touchdown, and they went on a long drive, which I guess got aided by 2 personal foul penalties, including one where they called Thibodeau for targeting, which I thought was a bad call. I think the whole
those targeting things have been a little iffy.
I think the whole targeting rule either needs to be massively revised or just completely removed. But then the thing is that they called pass interference in the end zone on Oregon as time expired. So Stanford got one untimed down, and they threw it the touchdown, the game tying touchdown pass on it. And then they went to overtime and they won. And the color analyst was saying that he felt like the penalty that they called Oregon for on pass interference on that last play was that there was worse that had not been called consistently throughout the game. So a little bit of controversy there, but again, obviously the result stands and everything. So, like your top 5 tomorrow is probably going to be Alabama, Georgia, Penn State, Iowa, Oklahoma. So very and Penn State and Iowa square off next week. So yeah, it would be
yeah. All right. Well, then we're going to call it a night, and we're going to thank everybody for watching. If you watched us live today, we're going to thank everybody for watching later on YouTube, if you catch it on YouTube. And we're going to thank everybody for listening to us wherever you catch your listening experience. We, as much as we enjoy this, we just hope that you guys are enjoying it just as much as we are, because as much as we do it for ourselves, we really do it for you guys too. So, we can't thank our listeners enough. And just to give you guys a little, our viewers and listeners and you guys, we really do have people listening from all over the world, because we've got some people from Germany. We've got
awesome.
Nobody in Australia yet, but we got India. We got
damn Aussies.
I think we have Spain in there. Like, we got different people from all over the world catching us, and listening. So it's pretty cool. We got some Canadians. So hello, Canadians. Yeah, that's a fucking word. Maybe I shouldn't do this.
You screwed it up or not?
Somehow Jeremy managed to butcher Canadians.
They're like, yes. Oh, these fucking Americans can't say Canada right. Well, fuck that.
No, the Canuckers. But yes. But thank you everybody for listening, wherever you're catching us, however you're catching us, whatever country you're listening. We really do appreciate you guys listening in and listening to us. So with that, we are going to say good evening, good morning, good night, good afternoon, and in whatever time zone you have a nice one. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Do drop in next week.